It's time to start perhaps the most difficult multiplayer challenge ever done. I'm going to be trying to beat Grandmasters with just a single unit type. Now I can hear you thinking, Marines only and Reapers only, sure, I can kind of see it. But Liberators only? Widowmines only? That's impossible. But maybe it is possible. Let's find out. The first unit challenge is going to be the Marine, obviously the classic unit of Terran. I thought it would be the perfect starter to start off this challenge with. Now, as you notice, this is going to be a voiceover, and that's just because this challenge is freaking difficult. This is the most time I've ever had to spend recording gameplay because, I mean, as you can imagine, it's pretty difficult to beat Grandmaster with just a single unit type. Now, I'm going to divide this challenge in 3 categories. The first category is pure, the second category is tech, and the third category is cheese. So what that means is I chose 4 units with which I believed I could truly win without making a single other unit. Not to defend, not to anything else, just 1 unit. And those units are, I wonder actually if you guys could guess them, Marines, Reapers, Cyclones, and Ghosts. Now, Cyclones and Ghosts might surprise you. Marine Reapers probably not so much. Personally, I thought Reapers was going to be the easiest one. Reapers against Zerg in particular. But I believe with those 4 units, I can win against Grandmasters without making a single other unit to defend or to assist. Marines only, for example, sounds very difficult without medevacs, but I thought it was possible. And then the second category is going to be tech, which is, I mean, it kind of, you know, it's pretty obvious, but like, for example, Thors, Liberators, it might be possible to beat Grandmaster with those, but if you don't make a single Marine, you will just die to someone sending a Reaper across or 4 Zergling or something like that, because those units just don't come out in time. So for that category, I'm allowed to make 5 early defensive units, so 1 Reaper and 4 Marines, or 1 Hellion and 4 Marines. And those units are not meant to assist me in the attack in any way. They're literally just meant to, you know, make sure I don't die and actually get me to a point where I can start making mass Thors. And then the third category is cheese. That is once again going to be very pure. So, for example, a Marauder cheese is only going to have Marauders, not a single Marine or a Reaper or something like that. And that way I'll be trying to work off the entire unit list. Now, there's a few units I already crossed off. I mean, you guys can imagine SCVs only, not going to work. Mules only, if that counts as a unit, also not going to work. Neither is Ravens only or Medevacs only. And the other 14 units, I'm going to give them all a shot. Now, for this game, we are playing as a Terran. The plan is relatively simple. First step, survive the early game. Early game is really difficult against Terran with Marines only. Very often, Terrans will just be making Reapers and Hellions fast units. It's really quite easy with them to out-micro Marines. So I need to be very, very careful. That's why I'm expanding on the high ground here, keeping my Marines on the ramp and making sure I don't die early on. I'm trying to find the perfect time to make a bunker, but it's a little difficult of a decision. Because if I make the bunker, I kind of commit myself to defending the low ground, while Reapers can also jump up into the main. Now, for this first game, my opponent is 5246 MMR, which is the equivalent of rank 142 Grandmaster. Just want to quickly do a clarification about how I count people as Grandmasters, because in StarCraft 2, it's a little bit difficult. Sometimes people have really high MMR. You could even have rank 1 GM MMR, but not being Grandmaster because you don't have the game requirements. So what I did is I looked at the bottom of Grandmaster, I skipped the bottom 20, and then you will have roughly 5100 MMR to be in Grandmaster level. So everyone above 5100 MMR will be counted as Grandmaster. I think in this video, I don't think there's anyone that was actually only 5100 MMR. I think everyone was 5200 plus at least. And we even played against some really high Grandmasters as well. So that's going to be very, very cool to see. Now, I think for this Marine-only challenge, I had a really cool strategy. I'm not sure if you noticed it right there, but I made combat shields instead of stim. Normally, that sounds crazy. You always get stim first. But I remember from back in the day, Wings of Liberty, like quite literally 12, 13 years ago or so. I remember there was a time when TVT was pretty much Marine against Marine. Reapers were not as popular back then. I believe they were also worse in that version of the game. And then there was Masa, a North American Terran, who made combat shields instead of stim, which was just, it was groundbreaking. Like, everyone was like, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he doing that? But if you have only stim against only combat shields, the combat shields win. For me, however, since my opponent's obviously not going to be playing Marine only because that's quite outdated, there's another aspect to this. If you stim, but don't have combat shields, siege tanks one-shot the entire Marine club, okay? So if you stim at a bunch of tanks, which my opponent's undoubtedly going to make, unless he's doing some kind of ungodly cheese, I would lose 10 Marines to the first tank shot, and I do not want to have it happen, so I'm going to go combat shields first. Keep in mind, I'm also not going to be allowed to make medevacs here, so stimming... You know, this is a mistake I always see a lot of Terrans make. Stimming without having medevacs or not having enough medevacs. It deals so much damage to your army. You could do 500 damage to your own army with a stim, guys. Like, it's basically 10 Marines dying instantly. It's very, very painful. Now, I do have to say, my build here is way more economical than most Terran builders. So when it comes to the economy, I'm in a pretty good spot. I'm mostly worried about getting into the late game. Like, imagine if I have to go up against 10 siege tanks, maybe a couple Ravens to put some anti-armor missiles on my Marines, and I don't have medevacs to maneuver. That's going to be very, very tough. So I wanted to make sure I get an early lead, and now I want to keep the pressure on. Like, what I'm doing here is a very strange build for my opponent. Like, if he sees I only have Marines, he's probably going to be put on the defensive. Well, realistically, there's two choices. If you play against someone making a lot of Marines early on, you either go very defensive, or you try to go with a tank push right away. Because a tank push is always going to be the Marine army. I mean, if you're sieged, at least, right? Like, if you're unsieged, you might be in a little bit of trouble. And here you go. My opponent is going to move out, and I already forced a first siege, which is awesome. Something that's going to play in my favor here is that in the last patch, which was about half a year ago already, I believe, the Raven turrets were nerfed, so the auto turrets, if he drops them on my army, they will die pretty fast. Now, pay attention to my army movement here. I could go back and go for a really big fight, but Marines, they're very bad against siege tanks. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to start making chaos. Notice, by the way, how I only had one gas all this time, because, yeah, I mean, if you don't make medevacs, you don't really need it, but at this point, I wanted to start my 2-2. Now, I think my army movement here is very cool. So I have a big army counterattacking. I also have a sizable Marine force on my 4th base, and that's going to be meant to surround later on. I realized as soon as he moved out on the map, I would never be able to win a head-on fight. So I already set up a flank beforehand. All these units are going to die. I'm going to try splitting my Marines here because he undoubtedly sieged that tank over there. There you go. Some more splitties here. Always beautiful. Wait, that tank actually only hit one Marine. That was more beautiful than I thought it was going to be. Not going to lie. And now my opponent's economy is in absolute shambles. Notice he has 2 starports, which is a relatively all-in push. Which means that at this point, all I have to do is survive. I'm going to get 1-1 finishing pretty soon. If I get 1-1, upgrades are absolutely incredible in TVT. Actually, I think 1-1 already finished. My army is going to be super, super strong. And here we go. I saw him on siege. I'm going to pull all of my Marines. SCVs from the 3rd base, SCVs from the main, and the ones I still have in the natural. My Marines from the 4th base are coming in from the flank. I have enough Marines to take down the Liberator on the high ground. His main base is still being held hostage. And just like that, Marines only is a success. It is time for my favorite unit. The second challenge is going to be Reapers only. I think a lot of you that know me probably expected this to be the first unit, but it'll have to do with second place. I wanted to go with the classic Marine first. Now, my opponent here, I believe, was 5276 MMR, which is rank 128 Grandmaster, and it is a Zerg player. I mean, Reapers only, it can work in every matchup, but I think TVZ is just the most satisfying. Like, microing Reapers against Zerglings, throwing grenades and making it just a bouncy castle for Zerglings flying around and dying to the Reaper shots is just absolutely beautiful. Now, the strategy is relatively simple. I think it's mostly execution based. What you want to do is you want to open with 3 racks Reaper. If you're allowed to make units besides Reapers, you can also go for a 2 racks Reaper opening. That's relatively popular these days. But for me, I'm only going to be making Reapers here. Probably even get upgrades for them later on. I'm going to open with a 3 racks Reaper. You want to keep the pressure on as much as possible. There is some strategy involved, in particular when it comes to reading your opponent's build. As you can imagine, if Zergling speed finishes and there's 20 Zerglings and you have 5 Reapers, you really need to get the hell out of there. Now, maps used to be a little bit better for Reapers. Like, maps used to have jump up spots everywhere where you could just go up and down, and it was just a nightmare for Zergs. Nowadays, it's not that crazy. I think this map is decent because it has one really good Reaper jump up spot. You're gonna see it in action later. It's in the middle, and the reason why it's good, it's probably better if I explain it later, but basically there's a mineral line on the high ground, so you can also hide your Reapers in between them. And anyway, it's going to be a crazy micro battle. So as you can see, 3 racks Reaper. Walling the low ground is really, really good with this kind of build as well, because then you can actually get your natural without 10 speedlings, you know, running in and ruining your day. So here you go. The first Reaper is out. There's actually a big benefit to walling on the low ground that people don't really talk about that much. and it's that your first Reaper arrives extra fast. And I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but 5 seconds extra of your Reaper harassing drones and Zerglings, even if you're not playing 3-Rex Reaper, even if you're just doing Reaper Expand, is pretty fantastic. Like, even here, this is pretty annoying for the Zerg already. Now, obviously, for my strategy, this just adds on to the fact that I need momentum because I'm going to kill more Zerglings than normal, and that's going to help my follow-up Reapers. I need to damage the Queen as well. That one hit I took on the Reaper there was already a slight mistake by me. Reapers heal when they're out of combat. So notice how I keep putting the low HP Reaper back because I don't want it to get hit, and it's healing up very nicely. Command Center is going to go down at about 250, which is great. And now we have a good amount of time to harass. Queens can die pretty easily. I feel like my opponent here was a little bit too... perhaps complacent. Maybe he didn't think he needed more defense because the second Queen should have been down the ramp already. Now notice on the minimap my opponent is going for a third base. This is actually the most standard Zerg build you can do. A lot of you might be like, oh well, he's being very greedy. No, that's actually completely standard. Getting the third base that fast. You kind of have to for a macro game even. Though it is a pretty good sign for us. That fast third base is pretty much the only reason why 3-Rex Reaper can work against Zerg, because they either skip a Queen for it, which seemed to be the case this time because his second Queen came down the ramp late, or they have to skip speed. Now, because the second Queen was late, I know that he skipped the Queen and not speed, so Zergling speed is probably finished here. You might wonder why I'm backing off a little bit, and it's because of that speed. I think I know the speed being finished on the Zerglings behind his mineral line, and I do not quite have enough Reapers yet. I made an engineering bay, and I'm going to go up to 5 barracks. I really like to go for a 5-Rex +1 timing, and this is when the high ground is going to be important. I know he's trying to sandwich me, and there you go. You need to stay next to that Reaper ledge, guys. If it wasn't for this Reaper ledge, I would have been dead, and that's exactly why I positioned my Reapers there. And now I'm going to show you guys how to micro. You want to throw a grenade, so if the Zerglings chase you, they bounce up. You don't necessarily want to spam grenades. All you need is one grenade all the time. Get those Zerglings up in the air, and now you want to throw the grenades on the edge of the Reaper, so it don't bounce all of your Reapers up in the air, but mostly the Zerglings, and here you go. All in all, a really fantastic trade. I'm pretty sure I almost committed suicide there with my Reaper. I almost killed my own Reaper there, 1 HP with that grenade, but it didn't, luckily. And there you go. That's fantastic trade number 1. And when your opponent makes that many Zerglings, excuse me, that is a very important thing to know about Zerg. Zerg is different from the other races, where the other races make units and workers at the same time. Zerg doesn't. Zerg either makes 1,000,000 drones or 1,000,000 units, and my opponent clearly chose the 1,000,000 units approach. So the fact that he didn't get anything done with it already puts me in a good spot. Now notice how careful I'm being with the Reaper movement. I saw there were no drones on that base, so I knew that he was going to have, an absolute crap ton of Zerglings, basically. So I'm being very careful. I already have a good amount of SCVs. I want to say this is probably about 35 SCVs or so, and that's even more than my opponent. Zerg is always supposed to be ahead in workers, so if you ever find yourself in this position, you can be pretty happy with it. Now, I'm mostly waiting for my +1 here. +1 is going to finish in about 25 seconds from this moment. +1 attack really makes Zerglings die super, super fast to Reaper. So I don't want to fight and lose my Reapers before that even is finished. Now, even at this point, there could be a chance that I win the fight. But even then, I'm not sure if I would like it. If I trade all my Reapers for all my Zerglings now, I'm not sure if I would like it. Like, I really want to keep the momentum, keep this big ball. Notice how I'm not going too far forward. This is a very suspicious looking base, by the way. And now my +1 is finished. Look, I have enough grenades here. Notice how I'm putting the grenades on the edge. And that was not the best trade ever, but it was still pretty good. And it's mostly because of the +1. +1 Reapers kill Zerglings so fast. Now, he does have the high ground at this point, so I have to be careful with this. Judging by the amount of units my opponent has, I don't think he could have gotten upgrades. It's still always good to check whenever you get the opportunity. Click on your opponent's units.
Not enough.
If you don't have, just a tip for beginners, by the way, you do have to enable that in the options, enable enemy unit selection. It's probably in the gameplay section, but anyway, whenever you get the opportunity, click on your opponent's unit, see what upgrades they have so you can better judge what fights you can take and whatnot. Now, if you're wondering why I have a factory, it's because I'm actually going to get 2-2 for my Reapers. I know it sounds absolutely absurd, but that's what I'm going to do. And here we actually baited him. He thought he caught my Reapers, but I had so many more Reapers joining from the high ground. In the end, I want to say I only lost a couple of Reapers there for a real bunch of Zerglings, which is fantastic. Now I'm going to keep putting on the pressure going across. I have my third base. This game, I did something new that I really liked. I don't think I've ever done this before, but I made my third base into a planetary. And you would think, why are you doing that? You have the entire map control. But that's the thing with Reapers. You usually move out in a blob, keep going across the map all the time, putting on pressure, and you don't really have defenses at home. Zerglings, probably the fastest unit in the game. Exactly stuff like this. Now, for this, I have enough. especially with the +1 finishing, right? But the planetary, let's say later on they do this with 30 Zerglings, that planetary is going to be super, super helpful. The only thing planetaries are not that great against is Banelings, because the Banelings just kill the SCVs under the planetary, and then you're still pretty sad. Now, you do need an insane amount of gas. Like, notice how I don't even have my mineral line saturated, but I do have the gases already, because I'm making mass Reapers with +2. And now he's getting really frustrated. He's going, the Reaper grenades are so efficient here. He's chasing me really deep, but he's getting absolutely annihilated by the Reaper grenades. And here you can see that classic Thermi micro that I used to do back in the day and that I really love doing. Told you guys, this was my signature unit, and I freaking love those micro battles. Now, you can tell the Zerg is confident in the movement, because he should be. He has way more units than I do, but with the Reaper micro, if he doesn't get a good surround, the grenades are just an endless nightmare for him. And now, this one, I stepped like just a little inch too far forward, but even then, I thinned down his Zergling count so much. Keep in mind, I have the 1-1 upgrades, I think. I'm not sure if +1 armor finished, but I think it did. Now, I'm just momentarily backing off because I want my Reapers to heal. Keep in mind, they do heal automatically and way faster than any of the Zerg units, so why would I waste, you know, more Reapers by just attacking very early? It's kind of similar to what I see a lot of Terrans do with Bio. When they're winning, they want to keep going, but in reality, it's better to just get them healed up by Medivacs. Here, he thought the Queens were enough, but he definitely underestimated the Reapers a little bit there. He needed Zerglings with the Queens, lost about half the Queens. And I have to say, guys, if you're going to copy this, please be a little more careful with the Reapers, because I am being very confident here, just stepping on his creep, but I was just feeling myself at this point. I killed his third hatch, which prompts him to go for an attack, but at this point my upgrades are so good. I think he's still on 0-0 actually, and I've said it so many times, but 1-1 Reapers are absolutely disgusting against upgradeless Zerglings. And I'm going on 4 base. My opponent, I don't think he really even has a lot of drones. I can just attack him on his creep now. There's no units left to kill me, and this has been an absolutely brutal mass Reapers game against Zerg, and that is challenge number 2 completed. Now, the third unit is going to be the Cyclone. Our opponent is a 5117 MMR Protoss player, rank 189 Grandmaster. Now, this game was absolutely crazy. I can tell you guys that much. Chaos is definitely incoming. Now, if you're wondering, how is Cyclones Only possible? I think it's mostly because of the early micro potential. Like, the Cyclone is a unit which, it snowballs decently. Okay, I'll say decent because it's not amazing. If you're going to go out there and try to play a macro game with 40 Cyclones, you're very likely not going to have a good time, and it's mostly because you can't get all your Cyclones to fight at the same time. But early on, it's a pretty good unit. If your opponent overextends, let's say they send a Zealot across too early, or maybe even a Reaper, for example, in TVT, you can punish them pretty fast. And if you can get, you know, a contain up so they never get a third base, for example, or even a natural, you're going to find yourself in a pretty good spot. Now, very often when I play these mass Cyclone games, I do get myself in really, really weird positions. Now, I do just quickly want to say, by the way, that these games were all recorded on Twitch. So, yeah, it definitely took me a very long time. Like, I needed a good amount of streams and long streams to make this happen. But if you guys are interested in this, maybe I could do another video with Protoss or so. And just so you guys know, I would probably stream those games on Twitch as well. So make sure to check that out. There you go. I have to go for a double gas. Like I said, Cyclone early on, pretty good unit. So I want to make sure I focus on the early game as well. At least not necessarily win in the early game, but just try to get ahead. And this is the first time I'm going to have to add mind games into play. Because remember, we are still in the pure category. I will not be making a single unit that is not a Cyclone. Problem, my opponent could see that and just keep his probe there forever. So what I'm gonna do, and you're gonna see this a lot in this video, is I pretend to make a Marine, right? Like you saw that I made a Marine, he walked away, and then I canceled it. And some people might think, well, why doesn't he just stay around forever? It's because they see I'm making a unit. Obviously, no one cancels their unit early on, so they don't want to lose their probe for free. If the probe stays, he loses the probe to the Marine or a Reaper that's gonna finish, and that's just a bad start for him. So what do? They bring their probe to safety. I make use of, yeah, you could say high-level mind games. These players all know the timings of when a Marine or a Reaper finishes. I actually don't, because I'm not really a timing guy, but I think most people know that a Marine finishes. I want to say, when does a Marine finish? Like 145 or something, and a Reaper finishes like 157. I want to say it's something like that. I'm probably decently off. But here you go, guys. This is when the chaos begins. A Stalker comes in. a little earlier than I would have liked. And it's accompanied by a Zealot, which confirms my suspicions that we are indeed being proxy-gated. Now, I do not have a single unit, guys, so that is a pretty big problem. There you go. The Marine was building. That Marine was also another fake. As you can see, I canceled it. You guys probably were begging for me. Please finish it. You're going to die otherwise. But no, guys. I stick true to my challenges. I'm not going to cheat here, and I will never cheat. And there we go. The Cyclone is going to finish pretty soon. Weakness of the Cyclone is that a Cyclone is only good when locking onto a target, right? And that's when this happens. He runs out of vision, he comes back, and I don't have the lock on a cooldown. A Cyclone fighting straight up, I mean, the Cyclone is made out of paper, guys. It's not good. And here I'm losing a lot of SCVs, but I need to keep this wall up. If I didn't keep this wall up, he would run into my base and I would be in trouble. Now the second Cyclone finishes and we're gonna be safe finally. Now this is still a pretty scary situation here because my opponent has a bunch of choices. He could transition. He could make... That's actually the worst case scenario for me, but he doesn't know that. He could make a sentry and force field me out of my base forever. Now the thing is, according to him, I could probably make a medevac or something like that, right? We know that I'm not allowed to, but he doesn't know that. But imagine if we did go for the sentry, we would just be locked in our base forever. I would have to fly my factories outside of my base, start producing Cyclones from my third base or something like that, and that would be very scary. Now, another option that he has, or actually two options that are really, really good for him, is either going for Phoenixes. Phoenixes make a Cyclone immobile, can't run away, and like I said, it's made out of paper, so the couple Stalkers he has one-shot it instantly. Blink, very good option too. You can blink on top of the Cyclones. Once again, they're made out of paper, so they die instantly. Or you can just blink away the Stalkers that are being locked onto, which, you know, just keep them safe forever. And actually, a third option I didn't think about, but you can go for a War Prism too, because you can just pick up the units that are being locked onto. And if this sounds like crazy micro to you guys, I can confirm you guys that these level of players are perfectly capable of picking up Cyclones that are being locked onto, or Stalkers, right? But here you go, one Stalker already falling. And I have Magfield, guys, so these lock-ons do 30 damage per hit instead of 20, so that's an insane amount. Now, this is suspicious, guys. Keep in mind, we're always trying to read our opponent here, even more so in these challenges, because I have to react in crazy situations. My opponent does not have enough units. He either has a third base building that I haven't seen, or it's a Dark Shrine, or a Robo Bay, or something absolutely absurd. And there we go. The sound of DTs are already happening. And at this point, you might wonder, well, how are you still going to be able to do something here? Well, first of all, he lost the first DT, which is awesome. And there is a massive Orthosis pylon here. He's not going to be able to warp in any more DTs. Look at that. Now, my SCVs are all going to die. I'm only on one base. Technically, I have a second CC that's going to finish, but that I do not have enough money for an orbital there, right? So that's not really going to help. And I don't have any scans left. So what I need to do here, notice how aggressive I'm being with these Cyclones. I need to make sure that I kill all of his probes fast. Like, I can't allow him to rebuild. I need to kill his probes, and then I need to kill these pylons. And then I somehow need to micromanage my orbitals, or, well, my one orbital. Actually, I should have a second one, I believe. Oh, I did have a second one more. Okay. So I have two orbitals. Then I just need to make sure he doesn't block my orbitals from landing, and then I can scan DT. That orbital is on a quest to the next base, and Cyclones are fast enough to run from DTs. You could see me quickly check in, waiting for my orbital to finish, and that's one more DT going down. And I believe he has one more DT, but at this point, he should know that it's not enough. And Cyclones has also done a trick in a more chaotic game than usual. And now it's time for one of the most exciting challenges, the Ghost Only challenge. Now, the Ghost in itself, known as one of the strongest Terran units at the moment, but as you can probably imagine, standalone Mass Ghost is not as good. They really struggle against a lot of early game units, like Lingbane trains insanely well against Ghost. Late game units, they're a nice prey, but most people are not straight up just gonna spam Mass Ultralisk when facing Mass Ghost. Now, my opponent here is the strongest opponent yet. MMR is 5493, top 100 Grandmaster, rank 83 to be precise. So this is gonna be an absolute banger. Now, the biggest weakness of playing Ghost Only in general really comes from the early game. Like, if you're gonna make Ghost Only, you need to make a Ghost pretty fast to be able to survive. Now, you can look at my base and notice I've had to make a couple gases, a Ghost Academy, my depots late, my command centers late, just to get Ghost out. Which results in me either having to go for an insane turtle game where maybe after like a half an hour of turtling and dropping mass nukes I could win the game, or maybe do a little bit of a sneaky attack. Now, this game I decided to combine the two a little bit. I can tell you this is gonna be a banger, guys, so you better get ready. Now, here's an Overlord flying into my base. You might think it's a waste of energy to snipe it, but ghosts don't really kill things that fast outside of snipe. I just rather wanted to not get too much information if he flies into my base. Maybe, I mean, any information is information, right? Like, I don't want him to know how tragic my economy really is. And since I have been scouted, I'm gonna go for a bunker. This bunker is not always necessary. The only reason why it's necessary is because you will die to a link flood. And I know ghosts are pretty good against links, if you have enough ghosts or the opponent doesn't have enough links. But if there's 20 links that are going to attack against my 3 ghosts, my ghosts die and I lose the game. So if I wasn't scouted, I probably don't make this bunker. But since the Overlord did obviously see my ghost, unless he was really not paying attention, I think this bunker is a necessity. Now this game I'm going to do a strategy that I haven't tried before against Zerg. And this, if you guys are going to try and copy this, I'm going to have to be very specific here because this is purely a mind game. So, as you guys might know, I have an entire Ghost to Grandmaster series in which I kind of struggled against Zerg for a long time.
Command center upgrade.
But at some point I figured out the perfect way to turtle. So I would never attack, I would get the right amount of planetaries up, I wouldn't rush nukes. And I would just, you know, make nukes later on and a lot of them instead. So I would never do this kind of attack. So as I was streaming this as well, a lot of people are wondering, he saw Ghost and he didn't make a spore. This guy is silly. But that is purely from the mind games I played in the past. I have played against Garritos before, and I would never do something like this. So he didn't expect me to attack early. And their cloak finishing at the exact perfect moment. And as you can see, there is no spore crawler. Maybe he didn't think I could afford cloak. And this is already going to be a very good start. Now, I'm just going to warn you guys, okay? This looks really good and is definitely good, but my build, I mean, look at what we're facing here, right? This is a third hatchery with a lot of queens, lings, and drones. I barely have any SCVs on my natural because my own economy is that bad. So even though this looks very good, this is definitely not going to be the end of it. And now his spore finished. Here, I was facing an important decision. I could have gone back to my own base, or I could kind of try keep doing this and kill a lot of Zerglings. The problem with this one is, so I kill a good amount more economy and more units, but these ghosts are dead. As soon as the cloak runs out, these ghosts die. These ghosts are not going to be able to beat even 2 roaches and 8 zerglings, right? They're going to die 100%. So what I decided to do here is I decided to sack these ghosts to kill even more drones. Whether this was the right decision, I don't really know. It's honestly very debatable. I think I killed at least 8 more drones for it. And, you know, if you put it on paper, 3 ghosts against 8 more drones doesn't sound like a worth trade. But if you take the game into consideration, like, I'm not gonna die at home. I'm gonna play a long game anyway. Does having 3 more ghosts really matter? And on the flip side for my opponent, it's pretty early in the game. It's not like I killed 8 drones out of 100. I killed 8 drones out of probably 35. So then it sounds a lot better already. Now my strategy, as you can see, this is a strategy very common in all of my challenge series whenever I play a slightly turtle style against Zerg, is that I go for the legendary 5 command center setup. What this means is I rush 5 command centers really fast without making like too many ghost academies or factories or whatever challenge I'm playing, right? I get a planetary fortress at my 3rd base, a planetary at my 4th base, and 1 in between. And that's going to keep me safe for a long time. Planetaries are incredibly strong against Zerg. They're not that great against Protoss, they're not that great against Terran with siege tanks, immortals, zealots, etc. But against Zerg units, they're pretty good. The way Zergs deal with planetaries is just having so much more economy than you that they can just spend 20 bailings killing all of them, right? But here, since I have so many, they might not want to do that. I already got my upgrades going as well. And now, the biggest challenge in this game is going to be my lack of medevacs, right? Like, this is still in the pure category, the last challenge of the pure category, so I'm not going to make a single unit that is not a ghost. And the medevacs are really good against Zerg. Not necessarily for the healing, not necessarily for the drops. If I say that, you guys are probably wondering why the hell are they good then, because that's all medevac does. No, what it's good for is that Zerg counters ghost by jumping on top of them with banelings, and your medevacs allow you to pick them all up when they're truly in danger. So you can kill all the units for free, as much as you can, and then if you're ever in danger, you can pick them up and go to safety. The reason why drops are not that good is because Zerg has Overlord spread everywhere, and yeah, I mean, I've tried. Most of the time they just see it and you just lose your ghost for free though, and that's kind of annoying, to be honest. I mean, if you send a full medevac of 4 ghosts every time and it just dies, it's not great. So mostly for that, medevacs are very good, but I'm not going to have them here. So I need to be even better at positioning and be even more careful with my ghost. Now, this is when my late game starts really getting into play. So what I do is I get my 5-6 setup going, and then I go for triple nukes. Single nukes are not that great Mostly for the reason that it's just a little bit too easy to see. Like, nukes are not particularly hard to spot. As I started Ghost through Grandmaster, I feel like that's already like a year ago or so, I was really surprised at how good people were at seeing nukes. Until people started nuking me and I realized they're genuinely not that hard to spot at all. So that's why I use multiple nukes, because at some point they're gonna miss one, they're gonna think I've countered all the nukes and we're fine, and then there's one nuke that hasn't been covered. This top nuke is very close to going off, but it's not going to, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, guys. The one nuke he didn't see, 29 kills on that Ghost, and it is absolutely beautiful. And these are also the moves that I really need, mostly to keep my opponent in check. If my opponent gets up to 100 drones, he will start spamming Link Bane, and I might not be able to defend it. But if I kill, 29 drones now and then, it was more like 22 plus larva probably, or 20 or so. But if I kill that now and then, they're not going to have the capability to do it, and I get more planetaries up. And I'm relatively confident that if I get to the true macro game, I'm going to have a good chance. Like, these early games and the mid games, they're very, very tough. Like, just speaking from experience, I've played hundreds of these mass Ghost games. They're very tough. As you can see, I've done so much damage. The game is... yeah, I wouldn't say perfect, but going near perfect for me, and yet I only have 107 supply at 9 minutes. There's probably some people in the comments like, wait, isn't that a lot? It's not, no. By 9 minutes, if you do a normal build, you should definitely be maxed out. So, this is like Grandmaster Plus level, of course. If you guys are having some fun macroing and learning how to macro, that's all good. But the point is, I have a very low amount of supply, and I still need to survive for so much longer. Now, I do really have a fun time with all these nukes. Notice how I already have 5 Ghost Academies, so I'm going to be able to do 5 nukes at once. One move that I really like... here I was actually surprised that Ghost died, by the way. I was like, what the hell? What's the range on that Spore Crawler? But you see, it's kind of tough getting these nukes out. We're playing against a very high MMR Zerg here. For some reason, that Ghost was not cloaked here. I tried to hide it, but it didn't work. And then in the end, I'm pretty sure I end up killing a Roach, which, as you can see, I thought was a very valuable trader. Hashtag value. Yeah, obviously pretty awful trade, but it's okay. That's the thing. Losing Ghost here and there, it's fine. Most people think of Ghost as kind of like a catch-all unit against Zerg. But the truth is, it's not really the case. Ghosts are really good in combination with other stuff. If you have tanks to kill Banelings, if you have bio to distract them, or if you're in the late game with Ghosts, Ghosts are fantastic, but it's not like moving out with 25 Ghosts is going to win you the game. The opponent makes 30 Banelings and all your Ghosts die, and then you're left wondering why you ever made that unit in the first place. So trading a Ghost here and there just to keep my opponent on his toes, keep him back, I think it's a fantastic trade. So I'm very happy with all of this, and notice how I'm making so many command centers. My opponent, by the way, playing very smartly here. There's 2 options you have against mass Ghosts. The first one is just try to kill them early on with Link Bailing. In my opinion, that's the best strategy. The other strategy is just go to the late game, make a lot of spores. Because, I mean, like you have seen with the last couple of nukes, nothing is really getting past because he just has spores everywhere. And my opponent realized the early game was not that great for him, so it would be better for him to go into the macro game. And I respect that. That's a really good choice. I do have to say, I'm already at 145 supply now, and that is starting to be a very scary supply kind of only Ghost. Like, I'm not sure what the highest value is you can possibly have, but I can tell you if you max out on only Ghost, the army value is insane in terms of resources, like absolutely insane. Now, at this point, I think I'm not even managing to hotkey all my command centers anymore because I simply have so many that it's kind of hard to keep track of. I think I probably had like 15 command centers or so. I have a couple more in the bottom that are not quite hotkeyed yet. Changeling's also something that's very tough to deal with. Now, this base is a base that I probably won't be able to grab. I mean, it's very out in the open, exactly as I say it. My opponent's already attacking it. Roach is not the best army against Ghost, though. Unless they get on top of you. If Roaches get on top of the Ghost, you're not going to be very happy. But if you get to snipe them, you're pretty much going to have a really good time. Now, there's just too many spores everywhere. I'm not really finding any locations to nuke, but that's okay. I mean, we're not being attacked. I'm slowly going to build up to having 200 supply of Ghosts, which is going to be incredible. And now you can see how many nukes I have. I still have 4 nukes left at this point, so I'm just trying to nuke everywhere. One tactic that I really, really enjoy as well is random nukes. So most of the time, nukes are targeted, or pretty much, yeah, all of the time, really. Nukes are targeted at a very meaningful place. So a hatchery, the main base, the natural or so, and it's you know, it's a little bit easier to spot, because where do you look when you hear the nuke alert? You look at your main base or your natural. But sometimes I just like to nuke in the middle of nowhere, and sometimes the opponent panics and they walk into it, or in any case, they get really scared and paranoid, and it kind of just stun locks them for 20 seconds, because what are you going to do when there's a nuke going off somewhere? And that looks like there's another nuke going to hit. That's a lot of overlords and all the drones, and there we go. We finally got another nuke in, and if you look at the supply, guys, 173, we really are approaching, you know, I wouldn't call it the Golden Armada, because that is the Protoss Cyclones army, but still, guys, we need a name for this, because 200 supply of Ghost is a pretty freaking crazy infantry army. Now, I do want to take all the bases on the map. That's basically the plan. I don't really want to fight necessarily. If we fight on my terms, I'm fine with it. But I would rather just split the map in half. If you split the map in half, I mean, it's simple. If you trade evenly, the game is even. My Ghosts are probably going to trade more than even. So if I have the map split in half, I am in no rush at all to do anything. Normally, the Zerg is ahead in bases. At this point, I think the base count is even. I believe it's 6 against 6, if I'm not miscounting. I'm just taking my 7th. And these random nukes, I feel like, I know they look silly, but they're buying me a lot of time. My opponent has not done anything since I started dropping these random nukes. And I'm just going to keep going, make more commands, and as I get more bases. If I get 8 bases, the map is effectively split in half. And that is just a very favorable scenario for me. It doesn't look like a very funny way to play the game, by the way. My opponent is probably expecting me to do something for ages. But all I'm doing is dropping random nukes and getting him to be scared. As you can see, his army was in the middle of nowhere, pretty much just chilling in his third base. Now this nuke, yeah, this was a very ambitious one. Obviously, he did see it right away. Now, I do wonder how important the upgrades actually are in the Ghost. I think armor upgrades are definitely important. The attack upgrades, I'm not so sure about, because Zerglings might get two-shot anyway. Oh, there's going to be, yeah, very careful with an Infestor. And now, I think this is too many Ghosts. I'm going to pull the SUVs as a buffer. I killed the last Overseer. Now the snipes are going to be insane. Look at those snipes, guys. Everything is going down. I got the EMPs on the Infestors. He was trying to get in there. Sadly, Ghost did get nerfed substantially in the last patch, where units can now run away from the snipe, which... Still not sure if that was a good change or an awful change, like I generally wouldn't know. And now he thinks he can get on top. But this is too many Ghosts, guys. All those roaches are going to get sniped down. Now keep in mind, Ghosts are significantly more expensive than roaches. So if he killed a few of those, that would have been good. But they're obviously an amazing trade for me. Dropping a ton of nukes. Need to be very careful that I don't nuke my own army. And this is what I love about Mass Ghost. You just get to control the map. If things go well, it's just art, you know? You build sensor towers everywhere, command centers everywhere. You just drop a nuke when you feel like it. I'm still on 5 Ghost Academies, I believe. That nuke was pretty close to landing, I think. I saw a couple spines moving, and I was like, oh, maybe his army's coming over here as well. Now, you have to be very, very careful for Banelings more than anything else. Roaches are not that scary. As you can see, I saw the Banelings and I instantly retreated back, because I just knew Banelings can really mess me up. Like one fungal and a couple Banelings and 30 of your Ghosts are dead. And once again, you're left wondering why you ever built that unit, right? But that's, you know, it's up to me to make sure that doesn't happen. I think I'm starting on my 3-3 as well. I'm not sure if my opponent has good upgrades, because usually when people have a rough early game like he did this game, they kind of tend to just forget about the upgrades and try to like maybe play an all-in style or catch your entire army. Now I'm being very careful here just because I run away from the Banelings. Like if Banelings get too close to the Ghost, I will cry. So now we have 4 nukes. I like that he tried to burrow some Banelings. That could be a very good play. 4 burrowed Banelings blowing up a bunch of Ghosts would be absolutely crazy. So now let's see. I want to do like a quadruple nuke on the hatchery. I think you can get a hatchery with 3 nukes. Look at this. This is so freaking cool, man. Like, I know it feels like a waste of money, but I still think it's so freaking cool to just have a million nukes dropping everywhere. And my opponent's terrified. Like, he heard all those nukes go off. We killed the queen and a couple spies for it. There we go. I mean, the thing that we really want here is that we pulled my opponent's entire army to the top while we killed that bottom base, which is very valuable. And once again, we have already successfully split the map. And now it's starting to look like I might even be able to get 2 of his bases, which would push this match massively in my favor, of course. One thing I could have done better for sure is clearing the creep, by the way. Like, the creep clear is not that good. Here's the Banelings. I didn't see any Overseers, so I can probably just run away, exactly. Planetary is going to be really, really good against Banelings. They each absorb like 20 or so. Normally, killing a Planetary with Banelings is a good move. Oh, we're going to get some good EMPs off there. Actually, very happy with that. It looked like it was going to be, you know, me losing Ghosts for free, but instead I got the EMPs on every Infestor, I believe, which is pretty, very valuable. Now, I do have to be careful with the rally. There we go. Oh, another really fat nuke on the drones, which is really, really nice. Let's see. At this point, I have to be very careful to not overextend. You see, I'm very far forward. Like, one fungal really is all it takes. And I'm so glad for these planetaries I have. I think I have another 2 planetaries to the right of this. Or maybe even 3. Like, there's just so many planetaries at this point. And now I have access to the natural, so I can even start nuking that. And at the same time, you know, the top is still going, guys, making turrets and planetaries and all that good stuff. Now, my opponent has been very good at seeing the nuke, so I don't think that moves like this are necessarily going to pay off here. I was surprised he saw that one, to be honest. Like, he saw the other ghost, and I was like, okay, maybe he kills that ghost, and then he forgets about the rest, but no, he truly does see all of them. And now I'm going to try to take his bases. We're going to go up to 10. This is like the most disgusting split of a map ever for a Zerg, by the way. I'm going to go up to 10 bases, and he's on 5, and that 6th base that I killed earlier, he's not even really going to be able to, you know, to keep that. So from a Zerg POV, this is a pretty sad game, not going to lie. Now, at this point, I have so many ghosts that I can even use my snipes on Banelings. Normally, you only use snipes on the higher value targets. You know, Ravagers, Infestors, Ultras, Brood Lords, and if you have to, you can put them on Roaches as well. But I guess at this point, when I have 5 million ghosts, I'm not sure what the math on that is, but looking at my supply, I think 5 million is probably accurate. Yeah, I can afford to snipe some of these Banelings as well. Now, I got a triple nuke killing that hatchery in the left base, so that is his 4th hatchery. Is it gonna land, actually? I think it is, right? Yeah, that hatchery goes down. That is awesome. I'm gonna nuke on the left side as well. I really wonder what my opponent's supply is at this point, because I have just absolutely nuked him to death here. 19 minutes in this game. I'm still at 197 supply. The efficiency must be crazy. If you guys can, without counting, guess how many command centers I have on the map, I'd be very impressed. I have 11 hotkeyed, but I want to guess it's probably more like 21 or so that I actually have. I really should be doing a better job at hotkeying. Damn. Didn't know I was going to expose my own mistakes here. So now this kind of looks like a last-ditch effort, but the planetaries are just scaring him. He can never fight in a planetary. What he wants is to catch my ghost out in the open, get a fungal in the ghost, and kill them all with Banelings. I think it would have been a decent idea for me to get an extra planetary over here. Here I went for snipes. I think that's a mistake. That's greedy. I was kind of banking on him not paying attention and then getting some really big EMPs off. Now, he has a couple fungals left, so I have to be careful. I'm going for the snipes. He doesn't quite get a fungal off, so that's nice, until I misfake all of my ghosts into his army right there. And, you know, as witness, I thought that was pretty funny, honestly. Maybe if this was, you know, a really close game, that would have been a horrible moment. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, I have outplayed him for 20 minutes already. And even though that was the worst fight humanly imaginable, almost looked like I did it on purpose because I'm still ahead. We are still going to win this game. There's so many planetaries everywhere he doesn't even really have. This is going to be a full nuke as well. And now he's going to have to kill this planetary that has freaking, what is that, 4 SCVs mining from it. This planetary has building armor as well. And now I don't think you can see it, but if you look at the mini-map, you can see on the left side both nukes hitting full mineral lines. I think about 40 drones going down. And despite throwing the fight entirely in the worst fight I've ever taken, Mass Ghost still got the job done. And this is the beginning of category number 2, the tech units, and the first one is going to be the Thor. Now we're playing against the Grandmaster Terran over here. MMR is 5317, rank 116 gem, bordering on the top 100. And I bet a lot of you are thinking, how could you possibly win this game with only Thors? And to be fair, I was asking myself that same question. I thought of a couple scenarios where I could win. First of all, I think Zerg was kind of out of the question. I feel like beating Zerg with only Thors is probably impossible, as you would quite literally just lose to a bunch of Ravagers. Even worse when they start making Infestors and stuff. And in general, guys, I feel bad about saying this because I love the Thor. I know a lot of you love the Thor, but realistically, the Thor is one of the weaker units that Terran has. It's a bit of a specialist. Thors are good against Brood Lords, Mutalisks, perhaps Colossi, if you ever get that scenario. Besides that, they die to a lot of things. They die to Ravagers very easily. Zealots, Immortals, and even some of the simpler stuff. Stalkers can easily out-micro them. Marauders kill them. Even Roaches beat Thors, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, it's not one of the stronger units. Now, it does pair well with some combinations. Like, for example, Thor Liberator is pretty good because Thors are pretty decent against air. Liberators take care of the ground, etc. But just pure Thors, it's kind of hard to see it happen. But I found some scenarios where I thought it could. So against Terran, I think you can create a little bit of an awkward game where they don't really want to move out because you have a bunch of Thors. It does have a lot of strong counters from Terran's. Ravens with the Interference Matrix and Siege Tanks come to mind as really strong counters, but somehow I thought it was possible. Now what I did here, I built my barracks behind my mineral line just as a mind game. Maybe create like a little bit of a panic reaction. As you can see, my opponent is going to be scouting very thoroughly, and he does find the barracks up there. But maybe if I even made him scared for 5 seconds, if he considered not making his command center on a low ground or something, that's already worth it. Now, for this game, I'm going to allow myself to make 1 Reaper and 4 Marines. Just as a quick reminder, this is category number 2, the tech challenge. So, you know, I do need at least some units just to not die. These Reapers are not... I'm not going to do like some sick timing attack with 1 Reaper and 4 Marines. They're really just to make sure I don't die. Maybe I can scout a little bit with the Reaper or the Hellion, and that's really it. Now, there's one thing that's very important about scouting. I always tell this, I'm going to say it again, is that scouting scares your opponent. So very often the counter to like a cheese or a push is not having the right units. It's just that you scout it and you force your opponent to do another strategy instead. In my case, you know, going for a Thor right away does not really defend you against a lot of stuff. But if I just make sure that my opponent thinks I'm ready, then all of a sudden I have a chance. And notice how I started making the armory already. I guess there's a little bit of a choice to make. I could go for... Well, you know, maybe there's other choices. Oh, here I need to be very careful that the armory doesn't get scouted, by the way. Doesn't look like it will because he's focusing the SCVs. But I guess maybe if I spend some more time thinking about it, there might be other strategies. But I had 2 strategies in mind. Strategy number 1. You rush 2 factories and 4 gases. You make a bunch of Thors. Let's say 4 or 5. You hope your opponent attacks you. And then you crush his attack with 4 Thors and you counterattack and win the game. Doesn't seem like a very reliable strategy, but it is an option. Option number 2, which I liked a lot more against both Terran and Protoss, is going for a 3rd command center. Maybe using the Thor as a bit of a distraction or maybe something intimidating while getting into a macro game. Hopefully your greed pays off so you get a little ahead and then you can reach a very high supply count. Let's say 150 plus with Thors a bit easier. And then you might have a chance before your opponent gets to the late game that inevitably crushes Thors, which would be an infinite amount of tanks or Immortals or Ravens or stuff like that, right? So... I decided the greedy option was the best one. I also played a game against the Protoss where I had a very realistic chance to win after being very greedy going into Thors, and that was a freaking high Grandmaster Protoss as well, so that's crazy. Also, I do want to say, guys, because this took me so many freaking attempts to do, I do have a bunch of extra games, so if you guys are really, really liking this video, I could also, you know, make another video like a part 2 where I showcase the other games, which are probably slightly worse than these, but maybe... some of them are even more epic or more chaotic or more funny. I'm gonna get my 4 gases up. My first Thor is on the way. And my game plan for me was pretty clear. I didn't realize this at the time, but I was playing against Angry, who's a mech player. That's gonna factor in later. I didn't realize this yet, but... oh wait, this is actually going to be a pretty funny moment, I think. So here, 2 Cyclones are going to try to kill my Thor. I need to micro it forward because they're so awkward at status stepping in here. I'm super lucky he didn't have a scan, because if he has a scan, the Thor just dies. I'm going to hide it on a high ground. And now he's going to type something that I thought was pretty funny. I make 1 Thor, right? I do 1 little thing that's different from like standard meta, and I instantly get asked if it's me. And I just think... no, it's a normal build, guys. I just think it's very funny that I deviate from the standard just a little bit. I make 1 unit that's not supposed to be there, and people are instantly like, oh, is that uThermal? And it's just like, it really showcases how... And I'm going to use a little bit of a negative word because that's the way I experience it. How stale the meta game is at the highest level, that I do something that's just a little weird, and instantly it has to be me. There's not a single other person that comes to this guy's mind besides me when there's a slightly weird unit, which I guess I see it as a compliment, you know. I really enjoy bringing these new strategies and challenges and whatnot to the limelight, so I'm pretty happy, but I did think that was a very funny moment. Now let's get back to the strategy here. My strategy here, my idea at least, was pretty simple. What I wanted to do is just create a distraction. 6 minutes into the game, if someone pushes me with 4 tanks and 2 Ravens, there's absolutely nothing 2 Thors can do. Interference Matrix deals with the Thors. Tanks kill everything because Thors are the only thing I have, right? And just like that, I'm in a little bit of trouble. So what I'm going to do here is I'm sending a Thor to each side to buy time. My economy is decent. Like, my economy really is not the problem, but I can't beat his army at all. So what I want to do is I'm just going to keep sending in Thors. That depot was genius. If that depot didn't exist right there, just one of those really good Grandmaster plays, I suppose. If that depot didn't exist, this Thor would probably go ham, but now he comes back in time. The Thor does nothing. I almost kill a siege. That thing is 1 HP. They should fix that, by the way. Thors need a buff, guys. And here, you know, I lost 2 Thors. It was incredibly inefficient. I almost killed a tank, and I killed a bunch of SCVs, and maybe while I wasn't looking, I killed a Marine or 2 or something. That more than that, I definitely didn't do. But my opponent didn't kill me, right? And that is step number 1. Like I said, there's nothing I can do against this army. And I'm gonna keep going with this strategy. Like, obviously, I'm gonna be able to build more and more Thors over time. So as long as I keep him at home, or I pull him back, or I create chaos, there's always gonna be a little chance. Now, these Thors, I can guarantee you guys, he would never expect. I just lost 2 Thors, killing like 5 units, 5 very small units. So he's definitely not gonna expect me to do the same kind of move. And here the Death Army is. But now, we're into the chaos that I really like. You can tell he already mismicroed the Ravens a little bit. He used the interference matrix on the Thors, even though his army wasn't ready to kill, so now he might not be able to kill those Thors later. He's losing SCVs on his 3rd. I already killed the Cyclone, and my economy is in absolute shambles, more than his is, but 2 Thors is very strong, guys. He doesn't have that many tanks at home. He doesn't have Ravens. These Thors are going to wreak absolute havoc, and at home, that command center is probably going to be saved, and now I have 4 Thors. The problem for me is breaking out of my main base, so he has a couple tanks. Here you can see how freaking good tanks are against Thors, by the way. These things are almost dead, but I managed to find a way into his mineral line, and I'm somehow, I really don't know why, I think I'm doing more economic damage to him than he is to me. Here he targeted the wrong Thor. Look at that 1 HP Thor just popping off. A tank goes down, a Viking goes down, and now all the SCVs are falling too. And I really should never have had the opportunity to be even here economically, but this 2 Thor run by really saved the game for me. Now I can spoil you one thing. This game is going to be absolutely epic and incredible, so this is not going to be the end of the game, but I'm very happy with how it goes so far. Even if this game here, let's say it ended within 1 minute in his or mine favor, I already think it would be very cool. It's just very cool to see what things you can really do with some outplays, despite having realistically a very weird set of units. So here I'm going down with the Thors. If you're wondering why I'm move commanding up it so my Thors can actually get down, Thors are pretty fast. You know, don't mean to be mean here, but they're pretty fast, so they would have blocked all the other Thors. But here instead, I think I lost 2 Thors and I killed 4 tanks. Maybe I killed a Raven or so. I wasn't paying attention, but the NE is pretty decent. Now, I don't have that many SCVs. I do have 3 command centers, but I would say this game... Yeah, I mean, am I brave enough to call this even? I don't know. I would say it's relatively even. I'll put it that way. I don't know whether I'm behind or very behind, or if it's kind of even, but it feels playable. My opponent lost a ton of SCVs. He lost at least 4 siege tanks. And for him, even though I'm kind of the one trying to snowball here with 1,000,000 tanks, I also feel like he is in that position where if you saw 5 tanks there, right? If he had 9, what the hell am I gonna do against him with like a bunch of tanks? Now here, this is when I realize he's playing mech. I mean, so far, just so you guys know, tanks, Raven, Vikings, that's actually a standard TVT composition. So even if you're playing Bio, Marine-based, you still make tanks, Vikings, and Ravens. So there is no clue in TVT whether your opponent's playing mech or bio until you scan the additional factories or barracks, or if you see something like Hellions, for example. Hellions is very strange, or just an absurd amount of siege tanks, which I both saw just now. And at this point, yeah, I mean, judging by how many tanks he had, I kind of realized the position I'm in. I'm definitely pretty far behind there, because he had more tanks than I had IQ, probably like 7, and his 3rd base seemed very saturated, so definitely pretty far behind here. But you guys know me. I am pretty crazy with my challenges, so I'm definitely not going to give up anytime soon whatsoever. Now, when it came to the upgrades, I actually wasn't sure what I should build for the Thor, because if you think about it, if you guys didn't know, a Thor does 60 damage to ground, 30 times 2, which is already a lot. Do you really need attack upgrades for that? I'm not sure. Though at the same time, their tank survived on 1 HP. So being ahead of their armor upgrades with at least 1 attack upgrade sounds very nice, so you can at least kill tanks 1 shot faster. Nothing feels more like a waste than a Thor shooting a 1 HP enemy. Like, it's like, well, maybe like Yamatoing a 1 HP enemy thinking about it, or nuking, even worse. Okay, some things are more of a waste, but it still feels awful. Without using any special abilities, then. So I'm gonna get the +1 attack. When it comes to the armor, usually making armor for Thors is smart, because then Thors are gonna be really good against bio. Here, I mean, tanks, I believe, deal 70 damage to armor. Does it really matter if I have an armor upgrade or not? I don't know. I mean, in the end, I'm going to make the upgrades anyway. For now, it's more important that I control the map, get a lot of extra command centers. As you can see, I'm trying, after that first Hellion run by, I'm trying to put one Thor in each mineral line. So I don't get annoyed to death by Hellions running in all the time. Even this is already kind of annoying, you know, my sensor tower getting delayed. Hellions are definitely good units. And now this tactic, I definitely enjoyed. If you look at the minimap, it almost looks like I have buildings spread over the map. It looks like I have a depot there in the middle and another couple depots to the left of that. But I'm just spreading Thors everywhere, so I can't be run by. And my opponent's playing tank-based, which is good. Tanks are insanely good against Thors, obviously. So with this, I'm not just going to be able to spot Hellion run-bys. I'm also going to see when he moves out, and I'll be able to counterattack. Keep in mind, I never want to fight straight up. The only time I want to fight straight up is if I have 30 Thors against like 20 siege tanks that are not yet siege, right? Besides that, I don't want to fight it straight up at all. So it's always important for me to give really good map vision, and ideally also have a couple Thors out on the map. Like here, I'm going to grab these Thors. I don't need a full HP Thor at home because even a 100 HP Thor destroys a lot of Hellions. Here we go. I'm going to be moving out with these Thors. I do think my opponent maybe played a little on the scared side. Like, judging by how ahead he was after that first base trade, it really feels like he should have been taking bases a lot faster. I mean, if you look at those middle bases, if he has those secured, let's say there's a planetary with 3 tanks behind it, we're not going to be that sad, but instead, our 4th bases are kind of at the same time, and it doesn't really feel like that was supposed to be the case. Now, here you can see that Thors are pretty decent, even though, you know, it died against 10 tanks. I feel like it still did a little damage, almost killed that 1 tank there. Now, I think the ideal situation is that I end up with either 2 or 3 Thor armies. There must be, and I always find this really funny to say about my challenges, but there must be a best map for things like this, you know? Like, this map is not very open. There's a couple rocks you can kill, which I definitely should. I think I killed both of them by now. But besides that, there's not that many paths. There's 1 path in the middle, and then a bunch of small paths around the 3rd base, and 1 leading into the 4th. So I guess 4 paths in total. But since it's very choky, even 3 tanks defend those. There must be an open map where having 30 Thors is actually pretty good. You know, I know it sounds weird, but there must be an open map where having 30 Thors is actually pretty good. Now here, I need to be very careful for the siege. I snipe 2 tanks and I can back off. Repair is very cost efficient. I think it only costs 25% of the unit cost. So even though I have to repair these Thors, it's easily worth it to kill 2 tanks for it. So no worries whatsoever about that. One move I could have made that I would have liked, and I have done before, is maybe get some offensive sensor towers. Like, keep in mind, okay, that's terrifying. 20 Vikings speed landing on your Thor and one-shotting it is actually pretty terrifying. But keep in mind, a ball of tanks always beats a ball of Thors. But Thors, and this sounds also incredibly stupid to say, are more mobile than siege tanks, I guess. I mean, they're very slow, but siege tanks have to be sieged, and they literally cannot move, right? Though they're obviously faster when unsieged, so it's kind of a, you know, a hard conclusion to draw, I suppose. But if my opponent goes out on the map to snipe sensor towers, for example, that gives me the opportunity to attack somewhere else because he's going to be spread more thin. Now, he's sending the Vikings into my base. This is a very risky move, but I really liked it. This feels like a move that I would have made, you know? This feels like a 30 classic. Look how fast these buildings die. If you guys don't know, Vikings have a little bonus damage against mechanical, so these buildings die very fast. Now here, he was just a little bit too excited, I suppose. He's going to kill 1 or 2 Thors for all of those Vikings, which really is not the best trade of all time. I did have a couple Thors in the wrong boat. Just a pro tip, guys. Or actually a noob tip, because everyone should know this. Please do not put your Thors on the splash damage mode, okay? It's awful. Like, against Mutalisks, sure. Against anything else, even if there's no air units, just take it off. Like, it's just offensive to the Thors to put them in the mode. It does no damage. I probably would have killed 2 more Vikings there if my Thors were in the right boat, because that actually does damage. But here you go. Look at the map. You can see an absolute Congo line of 1,000,000 Thors walking across. And yeah, I suppose as long as I dance outside of the sensor tower range, I might be able to find an opening. The problem is, he can just keep a lot of his tanks unsieged, and just exactly like that. You can keep a lot of your tanks unsieged and just kind of move them where you think the Thors are going to be. I would love to attack in here, but I would have gotten crushed like an ant, just so you guys know. So I think it's very good that I backed off. Yeah, tanks are just insane against Thors, guys. You have to be super, super careful. We're already 17 minutes in, and so far there is no end in sight. I was really happy to see that he didn't have this 5th base. Keep in mind what I said, that I think he should have expanded faster than me. I have my 5th base on location, and he doesn't have one yet, so I'm somehow ahead economically. I have enough Thors around this base. Oh, this is a really nice trade. I know the Thors are losing, but any trade I can get with the tanks on siege, I'll take. Like, I think I probably killed at least as many tanks as I lost Thors. And since I'm ahead in eco, since I have the map control, since I'm starting to out-expand him, I think all of those trades are very nice. This is very scary because he has those tanks on the top. He didn't siege them right away, so that's nice. Okay, there we go. We're going to be able to fight against the Vikings. Here, I'm going to kill the planetary and then back off. Thors outrange a planetary, by the way. It's not something a lot of people know, but they do. Now, here, if we look at the supply, you're going to start doubting whether that was the right trade. I can give you guys the answer. Resource-wise, that trade was awful. Thors are super expensive. The Thors, and don't laugh at me, they're basically like the carrier of Terran, right? Or like the Colossus of Terran, I should say. It's a very expensive thing. It's not quite as cool as a laser giraffe, but it's a very expensive thing. And there, I didn't quite trade efficiently. Now here I make 2 Cyclones on accident, which you could say cheated the challenge, but in reality, I'm just owning myself because I'm going to kill them both without using them, so I'm basically missing out on the Thor. As you guys know, I really don't like cheating on challenges, so in fact, I just dumped myself by 1 Thor, and that's pretty painful. Now, we're getting attacked by the tank army. That should be unbeatable. But I have a lot of Thors out on the map. I will be able to create an absolutely massive surround, and that's the only way. And this part of the game, I'm not going to lie, I think this is absolutely hilarious what's about to happen. So, normally, this is what you do with, like, Zerglings, you know? I'll just sketch a picture for you guys. If you play against Zerg, Zerg has Ling Bailing, you have Marine Tank, you go out on the map, you try to siege your tank slowly, step by step, and then what the Zerg does, the Zerg counterattacks with the Zerglings to make sure you can't reinforce, you can't add to your current force of Marine Tank, right? So it intercepts reinforcements, and then when they have enough units, they surround your army and kill it. And I'm somehow stuck doing that with, like, the slowest unit in the game besides a Queen of Creek. I mean, if you look at the map, I have Thors on all sides of his army. Some Thors were too excited to get into the fight. Thank goodness I didn't lose those, because you can see how fast they die. And I have made sure he can't reinforce this, and now I'm going to surround him with 1 million Thors. And this might be the coolest Thor battle you guys have ever seen. I mean, if you guys have ever seen something like this, I would genuinely be impressed. I mean, it's probably happened before. I mean, I'm kind of crazy. Maybe I have done it before myself. But you can tell he's spreading like a little thin because he has to get the tanks forward, but he doesn't want to get caught on siege. And now I have 194 supply floors. He on siege. Here we go. The SCVs are going to go forward to make sure I don't take massive damage on those Thors from the siege tank. Thors from the right top, the left top, the bottom left, and the bottom right. This fight was absolutely beautiful, and I survived it with 18 Thors. Now, I was very tempted to just run across the map and kill him. But then I scanned, okay? And I saw he still had 10 tanks at home, and these Thors would all die. So I'm going to be smart about it, and I'm just going to go ahead and repair all those Thors. Like, it really makes a big difference. It's the same when you play bio. Don't go in when your bio is already HP. Make sure the medevacs heal them first, or in this case, just repair your Thors first. I do think my army looks incredibly cool, by the way. Like, it's just... You know, if you get like those box art late game games, this is what an army looks like. You start with 1 Reaper, and maybe you make a Marine, and then you get a Hellion. But then it's the late game, and you make 5 gajillion Thor, something like that. You know, my army just looks crazy. And I don't have many SCVs at this point. That was the worst thing that happened out of the fight. I had, I think, 35 SCVs left after the fight. At this point, I already have 50. I mean, I have 7 command centers, so SCVs build pretty fast. It's actually pretty funny. If you do the math, SCVs build faster than you think. 1 command center can build 5 SCVs a minute. So even 7 CCs can, you know, if you want to make 70 SCVs, it only takes 2 minutes. It's actually very, very fast. So that's pretty nice. I mean, as you notice, I'm already at 175 supply. My economy is already starting to look pretty good. I have my guard Thor over there on the top left. And we're going to snipe another command center. Sniping command centers, by the way, very underrated. Terran late game kind of sucks if you don't have 1 million command centers. I feel like it's the main reason that Terran late game is pretty good. Is because you can make so many command centers. You have infinite scans. You have a lot of minerals without needing SCVs. You can make your army bigger and bigger and bigger. And the fact that I already sniped 2 command centers, 1 on the left earlier and 1 here now, that's quite nice. Now, I don't have a scan, but it didn't look like a lot of siege tanks, so I'm just going to go for it. Yeah, it's 4. Okay, I was thinking it's probably going to be 3 siege tanks, but it was 4 in the end. I mean, I'm killing a lot of SCVs here, and once again, my economy is decent. I still have a big Thor army on the right side, so even if he wants to attack my base, I can counterattack. And now we're getting some really good damage done. I need to make sure to resaturate all my gases, as you can tell. I mean, and as you probably could have guessed, this is a relatively gas expensive composition to only make Thor. 200 gas per bad boy. And the multitasking, I find this very beautiful. I'm not sure what you guys think, but the fact that I'm getting out multitasking done with such a freaking slow unit that is not meant to be a speed demon at all, I find it very, very beautiful. So I snapped another tank there. I did lose 2 Thors for that, but once again, every trade I can get that's decent, I like it. I'm really trying to go for the outplay in terms of multitasking and economy rather than, you know, trying to be trading efficiently or anything like that. So I only left 1 tank there. We're gonna pounce on that and kill that. Might be able to kill that. The command center dies very fast if he would target it, but I'm gonna run away because I don't want to lose those Thors. I do like to keep the pressure on at all sides, including that left side over there. Now the gold base. Yeah, gold bases are cool. It's not particularly meaningful for me though. The only reason I don't have that many minerals is because I'm just spamming command centers like crazy, but realistically, I'm never really going to be short on minerals. Right now, almost all my minerals are going up on repairing these Thors, actually. But I guess if I can take the gold base, I might as well. I do have to say, in such a hectic game where it's very chaotic and you have to fly bases everywhere, even at the start with my 3rd command center, if you remember, it's very easy to lose track of where the hell your SCVs are. Like, sometimes I'll have 80 SCVs, but none of my bases are mining, and I'm like, how is, like, why? And then I look at my 3rd base that I haven't looked at in ages, and it'll have like 39 SCVs on it, you know? Like, it's pretty difficult to keep track of all of that. Now, despite all my efforts to harass, my opponent's still very stable on 5 bases. And 5 bases, it's not really a complete late game. It's not like he has the map completely split or anything like that. I mean, if you look at the minimap, it's absolutely not true. I didn't even realize how many... I have every base besides 1 that he doesn't have. He has 5 bases, and I have all the other ones on the map besides 1 on my side, because for some reason I decided to take his bases first. Now, this move I thought was pretty decent. We're getting a lot of eco damage, killed a couple tanks. Gonna lose a Thor or 2 for it, but that's also alright. Now, I'm not even sure if I prefer to make some planetaries or not. I mean, I haven't seen Hellions in ages. I think at some point my opponent decided to stop using Hellions and only used yeah, tanks, pretty much. I mean, some Vikings, but besides that, he really has been mono-battling tanks for the most part. And planetaries don't do anything against tanks. Like, sure, it buys you a little bit of time, but that's about it. Here, we're gonna kill another 3 tanks. That Widowmine does snipe off one of my Thors, unfortunately. And now, oh no! I thought this was gonna be... Oh, no, I get it. Okay, I thought this was a sensor tower, and I was like, oh, cool, I did go for an offensive sensor tower, but I just did it to detect mines, you know? I'm not allowed to make Ravens, right? This is a pure Thor challenge, so... yeah, we need that to detect Widowmines. Widowmines very annoying, actually. I mean, they do a lot of damage to big units. I know Widowmines are mostly known to be good against big clumps of small units, such as workers, not including SCVs, Zerglings, maybe Zealots as well, right? But Widowmines are quite good against big units too. Like, if you're struggling against Ultralisks because you only have Marines that don't do damage against armor, then a couple of Widowmines can really do the trick as well. Like, 4 or 5 Widowmines do kill an Ultralisk as well. Now, this was a little bit risky. If we didn't have those tanks in the background, I would have still gone for it. But with those tanks in the background, I really would have lost everything pretty fast. Now here, you could see me hover over. That's also a tip that I can give you guys, because some people don't know that. You can hover over the top right and see how many SCVs and how much army supply you have. Here, I started feeling like my army was a little bit too small. I'm really rich, but my army is small because I have too many SCVs. I think I had 87. So what I decided to do is use these SCVs to tank a couple tank shots and then go into it. What a strange game. Mono battle indeed. Well, I mean, I did make, you know, 4 Marines and a Reaper, and he made 5 million Vikings and Hellions and Marines and Ravens. But besides that, I guess it is a mono battle. Especially from my side, of course, but I mean, I'm not complaining or anything. That is my fight. Look how fast the command center... Oh my god, that died so freaking fast. Thors do a lot of damage if they get to shoot. Against tanks, the problem is that they don't get to shoot. But if they get to shoot, they're fantastic. Exactly, guys. I believe in my units. I read a comment the other day from someone saying they figured out my secret, which was that I always give encouragement to my units. Like, oh my god, this Liberator is doing so good. And it's true. My units are always the best, including these Thors. I don't care that my opponent has 49 siege tanks and 500 Ravens. I have Thors, and Thors are the best. I believe in them. And we're gonna get some more damage on the command center. He is now trying to expand to the bottom side, which I am not very on board with. Now, this is a very risky move by me because he also has the tanks on the bottom side. Well, if he wants to fight on siege, I'll take that trade any day of the week. Look at that. Killing so many tanks, maybe... Okay, he did pull those back in time. I would have killed so freaking many. And now, I can guarantee you guys... Well, I don't want to guarantee it because I have been pretty inefficient, but I'm sure my economy is better. I was going to say I have a better bank. That I am actually not quite sure about, but I do have a better economy than him. I have all these bases on the outside. You know, thinking about it, it's probably not even that strange that I didn't take the base in the middle, because that is the easiest target ever to get killed by siege tanks, right? So maybe it's good that I don't have the base. I'm just trying to take the outside ones. A big mission that I have here is to make sure he doesn't take the bottom right, because that's his next logical step. At this point, I think his fourth base, I mean, I killed it once, but still, his fourth base must be mining out at this point. That's the bottom middle one. So, technically, you know, adding up the other mineral lines that are relatively mined out, he might only be at like 2 bases or so. Well, I'm more on like, what is that, like 3 or 4, maybe even 5. Now here I'm trying to be very smart. What I'm trying to do here on the left side is force him to unsiege and then sandwich him really hard. That's the plan. Now, he has so many freaking tanks here, man. But, oh, we found another hole in his armor here. Look over here, guys. There's only 1 tank there. Maybe we can get some damage. I mean, on the bottom side, my Thors are doing great. I just killed the command center. Sadly, I do have to run away from this. This was a very scary moment for me, because he could have killed all these Thors over there from the middle, from his high ground third. But this base is undefended, and now we're going to be doing a massive amount of damage, and that's beautiful. One thing I need to make sure of is that he doesn't get to push all the way to my production. If he gets to push to my production, yeah, that's just absolutely terrifying, because I won't be able to make any more units. I did make some factories on the top left side too. So even if I lose that production, we should be okay. Now, this looks like a pretty decent fight. These Thors are gonna die. But once again, guys, I've said it many times, but this is very important. He's losing so many tanks here, and my economy is way better. I think we're probably gonna kill those last 2 tanks as well. There we go. And that was really nice. He's struggling on the bottom middle side as well. I have a few Thors left on the left side, but those don't really have an angle. Wait, this Thor is actually gonna win. I thought these Thors were dead for sure, but they're actually gonna win this trade over here. I have a couple of red HP Thors. Let me try to repair those. And now my opponent's moving across, which I'm obviously just gonna answer by going for a counter attack here. My money is quite low at this point. Like, maybe I shouldn't have sacrificed the SCVs. I didn't realize the game was gonna get so hectic, but here we go. 5 Thors, couple SCVs to tank the hits. That's always going to be really, really nice. I do have 3 more Thors in the bottom, which I can't use yet, but at some point they're going to be very useful for the surround, I'm sure. He has about 9 tanks attacking my base on the right side over here. And the moment he unsieges, my Thors can get in and do an amazing job. If they're sieged, there's nothing I can do, but the moment they unsiege, it's going to be pretty decent for me. He looks like he has a pretty good spread as well. Oh no, that's a little bit too much. I decided to sacrifice it for 1 tank because I thought I was going to lose it anyway. Now, I really want him to unsiege. I'm just waiting for it. I think at this point, our armies are pretty similar. You wouldn't be crazy. Yeah, his army is actually better than mine still. He has at least, let's see, what have I seen? I think he has at least 16 siege tanks, and I have 12 Thors. I mean, all in all, it's pretty even. My supply is probably higher, because if I have to guess, I have more SCVs. I really feel like he has no SCVs. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 20 SCVs or something. And how many do I have? Like 50 or so? Definitely a little bit more. Now, I still don't want to attack into that place. Seems a little bit too scary, but we found another open area to attack in. That's very nice. These Thors are going to go to the bottom. Looks like all of his tanks are committed at this point. Either that or they're coming back, and that's also really fine for me. Yeah, now he's coming back, but I don't think I can really get in there yet. I always have to wait for scans, by the way. If I don't have scans, I can't do anything, because I need to know if he's sieged or not, right? Oh, it's going to be... Oh, no, he has way too many tanks on the high ground. Okay, I thought I could snipe maybe 2 or 3 tanks there, but he did have a couple siege on the high ground. Now I'm going in Voice on. This is a very risky move, because he has so many freaking tanks, but he was on siege for a little bit. Well, we are going to kill a lot of freaking tanks there, actually. Way more than I thought. There we go. He does have... Yeah, I want to say that there's still about 15 tanks left. I have 11 Thors as of this moment, but his economy now is even more in shambles than it ever have been. Like, he's basically not mining. I killed SCVs at that middle base he has, and I still have Thors everywhere. And this is the first point where I started feeling like I probably had it in the bag, unless I made some big mistakes. Like, there's no Ravens to really create super efficiency for him. If he had a couple Ravens, it'd be way scarier, but he doesn't have those. So if he goes across, either he gets surrounded, or I counter-attack him. Both of which would be pretty rough options for him. If I counter-attack, he's gonna lose his base way faster than me. Keep in mind, guys, tanks don't shoot up, right? So if I fly my buildings away, he literally cannot kill a single one of them. But my Thors will devour his command centers and make sure he has no follow-up whatsoever. Now here I found another small potential idea to go in there. I have 167 supply. I'm still running out of gas out of all of this. I do notice I have a couple bases without gas. He killed the base I had in the left middle. That one is not mining gas currently. And in the bottom right, I also have 1 gas. And now, this is really good news for me. I saw all these tanks here, and you might think, well, that sucks for you because now he has a really good pressure. But that means I can kill his last remaining base. There's only a couple siege tanks there. I have freaking 9 Thors over here. And, you know, oh, there's actually more tanks than I thought. But even 4 tanks are gonna die to all of these Thors. And there you go. This is his last remaining base. I sent 1 Thor in his natural. That one did sadly die. I had slightly higher hopes for this one. But now we're going to kill the command centers. And it looks like he's about to type something. Usually that seems like a little bit of a mistype before they type something. But he has no bases left. He has no tanks here. I'm going to be able to go into the main. And after 33 minutes, Thors get the job done. He says something about Vikings being the wrong choice. I actually think Vikings were a fantastic choice. But that was the biggest banger of the video yet. Let's move on to the next challenge. And the second unit of the tech category is going to be the Liberator. Now, I imagine this is one of those units where a lot of you guys are thinking, how can you win with just Liberators? They don't shoot buildings. And that's a very reasonable concern. Now, for a while, I was thinking, if I play the Liberator challenge and my opponent's completely dead but refuses to leave, would it be fair for me to make some Marines and kill them, right? I mean, technically, I do have the Reaper and the Fair Marines that I'm allowed to make in the early game. Though realistically what happens is that if you really beat someone, they will leave. Like, I don't think anyone is going to stay in the game thinking, ha, he's only allowed to make Liberators. What they'll think is, I'm dead. And I'm out, you know. They probably expect me to just build some Vikings or Battlecruisers or anything to just end up the game. So I never really run into that problem. If it was a problem, I would actually have to think about whether I would allow myself to make some Marines and kill them, or if I really have to use my first 4 Marines. I don't know. But anyway, it's a very cool setup I have going here, right? Expanding on the low ground, especially for Terran. For Protoss, it's pretty common. But especially for Terran, it's a concept that has never been used that much. Or I'm not sure if I said expanding or walling, but obviously I meant walling the low ground. Like, usually you just wall your main ramp, you take it very safe. But walling the natural feels very comfortable, especially on some of these maps, including this one, where you don't even need a second depot. It's straight up depot, barracks, factory, and it's a complete wall. Now, what is the thing when you go for walling the low ground? A really big thing for the strategy. It depends what side you spawn on. And this is something that people have been complaining about in StarCraft forever. If I did this on the other side, my add-ons would be on the outside and they die to some Zerglings and then I lose the game, right? So this is technically only viable on this spawn. Now, there might be some builds where you can kind of bait them into attacking. Like, let's say you go for the build I did in game 2 of this video, where you make an extra barracks and go for Reapers. If they then make extra Zerglings to try and kill your add-ons, you can kill the Zerglings, but besides that, you always want your add-on to be on the inside, so there is definitely, for Terrans at least, I don't think it's the case for other races really, but for Terran, there's definitely a little bit of spawn imbalance. So if you want to do this properly, yeah, you do need to get the right spawn straight up. Now, Liberators, a unit that is relatively common in TVZ, but it's very uncommon to make more than one, right? Usually what you use a Liberator for is you open up with, let's say, 4 or 6 Hellions. They're fast units, good against Zerglings, good at denying creep. You kind of control the map with them a little bit, and then you have 1 Liberator sneaking in the back of the mineral line, getting a couple drones. And that's pretty much as far as the Liberator go. Late game, you don't really see them. It's more about tanks and Widow Mines and Ghosts in particular than anything else. You don't really see a lot of Liberators. People make them sometimes, though. Some of the best Terrans in the world do too, so they definitely have their space in the meta, but they're not super popular. But mass Liberators, I've noticed this when I did Sky Terran challenges on, my stream or on my second channel. They definitely pack a punch, you know. Like, if you have 12 Liberators secretly, and your opponent has Corruptors or Mutas that they don't spread out enough because they don't expect you have that many Liberators, you could easily just annihilate their entire Air Force and, you know, get a relatively easy dub like that. So Liberators definitely have potential. One thing that's really funny, it's a super funny game, is Liberators are typically countered by a single Spore Crawler. Spore Crawlers can unburrow and burrow very fast. Spine Crawlers can't, they're super slow, but Spore Crawlers, they can reposition very fast. So what they do is they just follow you around with their Spore Crawler. It takes a lot of APM, but it also negates your Liberator very easily. If you have 2 Liberators, however, you can siege both sides of the mineral line, and obviously it has counters. A couple Queens, that's a good enough counter. But since people are so focused on just, you know, following their standard strategy and countering that kind of stuff with a single Spore Crawler, it's a pretty decent strategy. Now here I'm going for a very fast double starport, getting my Liberators up, going for the Fusion Core for range. And the Thor challenge wasn't, but this is also a similar challenge to the Ghost, in which we need the 5cc setup. You guys can imagine, I'm not going to be defending anything. Like, imagine like 200 Zergling walking in with Liberators, right? They kill one when they walk through the circle, and that's it. So I'm really going to need a lot of Planetaires to make this happen. And if I can't manage to defend, it's going to be very, very painful for sure. Now we're going to go up to range here. Maps these days are not particularly good for range Liberators. At some point it was a bit of an exploit. Liberators had 1 more range with range upgrade. And there were some maps where you just couldn't reach the Liberators when they siege behind their mineral line. Now there's not that much space for it, so Liberator range not as dominant, but it's still decent. Now here you can see what I'm talking about. That Liberator is in range of the Spore, but the other one on the left side can siege out of range, and it's going to be very annoying for him to deal with. And now he's already losing a couple drones. The harass so far successful, and little does he know, I'm going to send even more Liberators. I mean, at this point, he probably thinks, man, this guy's doing a really silly opener who opens with 2 Liberators. Little does he know I'm going to make as many Liberators as I can possibly afford outside of range. Now, I do already have 4 command centers going up. 5th command center is going to start soon. Planetary here is going to defend me against Zerglings. This bunker, with the 3 Marines that I still have left over from the early game, actually very useful. Normally, you wouldn't say it because bunkers overrun pretty easy, but think about it, guys. What defense does my natural have right now besides those 3 Marines in a bunker? There's none, okay? If this guy attacked me with a couple Banelings, for example, I think I'd be pretty sad. I mean, I don't know what exactly, there we go. I don't know what we can really do against. Now, I do have a decent amount of libs. Maybe with some micro, I could, you know, get out of this, but this is definitely gonna hurt. I don't have a wall in the main because I walled on the low ground. Just as I was hyping up these low ground walls, we already found a big downside. Well, I mean, realistically, I could have just walled it anyway. But yeah, this is a lot of freaking Zerglings. I'm gonna lose a lot of SCVs. And look at the minimap, guys. My opponent is on 5 bases. And yeah, this kind of shows already that playing fast Liberators might not be the most optimal strategy. Zerglings are dying so slow because Liberators are single target, high damage units. Zerglings are... They don't need that much damage to kill. They have 35 health. I think Liberators do about 80 damage or so. And they attack very slow. So mass Zerglings do not die to Liberators unless you have at least 10 of them. Now, the eco damage has been decent. I mean, at this point, you're thinking, okay, this challenge is just impossible. You just lost the game to a couple of Lings and Banelings. But my opponent did not take all the gases to afford that. So I've done a little bit of damage. If you paid attention to the game so far, you'd notice that, for example, the opponent's missing a gas in his main, in his natural, on his 3rd base. Basically, he's only on 3 gases, meaning his Spire or his tech could be a Hydra then, for example, Infestation Pit, Roach Warren for Ravagers, all pretty good options. It's going to be a little bit delayed. So there might still be some potential I have here. I mean, I have 10 Liberators on the map, guys. I'm going to be doing a decent amount of damage. I'm going to get my Planetaries up. And I do have more command centers than usual. Normally, you don't have this many command centers, so my SCV reproduction is going to be a little faster than normal. 2 more Liberators are going to hit the bottom side as well. I already rallied those a pretty long time ago. And that is going to be my final Planetary producing. Now, those Liberators did see a Spire there. That is a pretty scary thing to see. Liberators, good against Mutas in high numbers. Absolutely awful against Corruptors, unless it's in high numbers and the Corruptors are clumped up. If Corruptors are split, you would be shocked at how little damage Liberator Anti-Air does. In, like, you know, typical pro games, Liberator Anti-Air is called more tickling than doing damage because, you know, pros are really, really good at splitting. They'll make sure your Liberator only hits 1 Corruptor at once, and then it does like 5 damage, and it looks very, very pathetic. So, yeah, we're gonna have to be either a little lucky or we need the perfect trap. Now, I do have to say these Liberators have done an incredible amount of eco damage. I don't even think we're that far behind in terms of economy anymore. Well, yeah, okay, never mind. That mineral line looks pretty tragic. But we have about 40 SCVs. Our opponent, I want to say, he's probably down to about 55, which is, you know, he's definitely still ahead, especially considering I don't have orbital commands. I only have 2. But it's better. I mean, if our Liberators didn't go absolutely ham there, he would have had 90 drones, and then you can imagine 40 SCVs against 90 drones is not that great. Here you can see it. Look, guys. That is 9 Liberators shooting Corruptors that are not clumped. Oh my god, they do little damage. It's disgusting. Really cool move of my opponent here, by the way, going for the drop. Now, with some micro, I didn't lose Liberator, so even though Liberator damage is pretty laughable against air, I didn't lose any, at least. Now, he was going to drop more, but I'm going to make sure I kill the drop lords before he gets to do that, so that's really nice. He's losing the units in my main slowly. Having to cancel the armor really sucks, because remember what I said earlier about the splash damage? If Liberators have +1 attack, the splash damage is also significantly increased, right? Because you can only win in splash. So getting attack upgrades as fast as possible is very important. Armor upgrades, not very important, to be honest. I mean, if the opponent has an overwhelming force, the Liberators are gonna die anyway, so that's alright. And in the end, I have to say we cleared that up pretty nicely. He didn't get the other drop in. We didn't lose that much besides the armory, and I'm sitting at 123 supply. Keep in mind we killed 2 Corruptors for free as well, which is basically the thing he wants to scale up to defeat us. Now I'm gonna try to see if I can find some more damage with these 16 Liberators. It does seem like a very funny army. There's a lot of queens there. One thing that's annoying with Liberators is you always want to make sure you're pre-sieged. You never want to siege when your opponent is already there. Now, this is a couple Ravagers. Ravagers are really good against Liberators. He almost got 2, but he only gets 1. But there was only a couple. So I just siege my Liberators. Now I'm keeping this base hostage. Even have enough Liberators because he only has 1 Corruptor. If that was 5 Corruptors, he would already have enough, but it was only 1, so it's pretty decent for me. And now, yeah, it's funny, he has Spore Crawlers below here, by the way, but he's so focused on, you know, not losing all of his stuff that he just forgot to move his Spore Crawlers, so this is doing a lot more damage than it should. And I'm grateful, because that's what we need. Now, I'm not sure if I started my upgrades already. Let's see, did I start my upgrades? I think I built them in my natural, right? Or have I not built the armories yet? It's possible that I forgot them, actually. I know I'm going to make them at some point, at least I hope I am. I think I am. But I guess we'll see. Now, I did get a couple turrets in my main in the meantime, so I don't die to another drop. Once again, very cool move by my opponent. Zerg drops are very uncommon, so when Zergs use them to a good effect, I like it. That is something I would highlight on my channel. You know, I'd be proud of doing Zerg drops at high level. That's a very, very cool strategy. There we go. We have 1 armor. +1 attack just started, so that's decent. I have enough Liberator. This is the high Liberator kind I was talking about. Before, we were just making fun of Liberator damage. Now, this is 17 Liberators. If he attacks me when he's clumped, he will get destroyed. And you have to pay super close attention to this. If he's not clumped, you fly away. If he's clumped, you can give it a shot. Like here, he has 2 clumps of units, and I think I'm going to go for it. Here we go. I'm going to target the middle one. And see, now they all spread the damage, and they're taking a lot of damage, but still, maybe he was a little bit brave. There's an infestation pit being built. This is very important to note. Infestors, obviously really, really good against Liberators. Liberators clump up like crazy, so things like Fungal, Parasitic Bomb from the Vipers, they absolutely shred Liberator, so that's good to know. It also means he didn't have a Hive yet, though, and Hive is what you need for Viper, so, you know, I would rather have him had just making Corruptors only. I think I'd be relatively happy with that. But the fact that he didn't have the Hive yet, that is definitely pretty nice. So I lost a couple Liberators there, but realistically, it could have been a lot worse. It looked like it was going to be absolutely tragic once I had to run there, but in the end, yeah, I think I lost 4 Liberators. It's really not that bad. Now, I do have a lot of Liberators at home. I have 20 there. I have 5 on the attack. And these attacking forces could do a really good job. Like, before you know it, you can just hold 3 bases fully hostage. And this is a really cool move. Look, I'm distracting him at home. I know he's paying attention there. And then I'm going to siege on top of his Ravagers. So here we go. The Ravagers are going to die. He's not paying attention to the Corruptors either. And this was a beautiful move, guys. He lost the entire ground army. Then the Corruptors are going to come in. But I had enough Liberators with the reinforcements, so we were able to survive. And now I'm going to try to repair these Liberators slowly. These Liberators did do a decent amount of damage. It was definitely nothing crazy, but yeah, really any damage goes. I'm just trying to get maxed out here and maybe try to make a killing move before my opponent gets to Vipers. Besides that, there's not, you know, a particular game plan that I really have to follow, or, you know, I don't have to kill him like right away. I'm mostly just scared of the Hive, and realistically, killing a little bit of economy would not have impacted that. It's more about him maybe having clarity of mind to go for that. Like, it's a very chaotic game for him, right? Like, he's surprised by my build. He's trying to make sure my mass expansions, you know, he keeps them in check. So he's maybe not thinking about going for Vipers. If he did have the clarity of mind to go for the Hive right away and Vipers, then he would have had the money regardless of the amount of eco damage I did. Now here, I was mostly looking for his Corruptors because I saw a very juicy clump. My +1 attack is also finished, so that means my army is a lot stronger here. So now he has the Spores. My army looks absolutely ridiculous here. This is probably at least 25 Liberators, 186 supply of pure Liberator SCV. And maybe... do I still have those 3 Marines? I don't even think I still have those. So here we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, he does have Infested. That's scary. That's all... They're all clumped. Oh, look at the Corruptors. They're all clumped. Oh my god, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Finally, we got to a really high number. And he's not splitting those Corruptors. All the Corruptors are already gone. And now the Liberators are going to siege the ground. Corruptors are dead. The Infestors and Ravagers are no longer going to be able to be in range. And every single drone is dead. 178 supply still on the board. And Mass Liberators is insane against Zerg. It is time for the Battlecruisers, and we're going to be opening this game with Command Center first. The opponent is a Grandmaster Zerg, 5272 MMR, rank 132 Grandmaster, playing on a barcode. If you guys don't know what that means, it's basically a hidden name. And it's the same map as the Liberator game, so we're going to be able to get a comfortable wall off. Though, this game we are playing CC first, which is different, at least I believe. I don't think we played Command Center first last game, but I don't quite remember. Now, Battlecruisers is... it's a funny strategy. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, but it's a cool strategy. It's weak mostly for the reason that Battlecruisers kind of suck in the late game. I know that sounds really weird to say. A lot of you are thinking isn't that the Terran ultimate capital ship unit? It is, but it does still suck in the late game. And the biggest reason is that it's really bad against spellcasters. If you go up against Infestors in particular, you get fungled, you can't teleport, you get knurled, which can happen from a burrowed Infestor. The Battlecruiser is dead. Might even Yamato your own units. It's just... you don't really want to get stuck in the late game. So the way you want to play Battlecruiser against Zerg is you typically rush them early. In a standard opener, you could go for an expand, get a starport up, go for a Battlecruiser, harass with 1 Battlecruiser, usually make a maximum of 3, and that's about it. If you play mass Battlecruisers, you kind of end up playing a little bit more of a turtly game. So you fly around with PCs, you try to harass non-stop. Kind of similar to the Ghost Challenge, where you try to get a lot of command centers up. You need a lot of planetaries. And unlike the Ghost Challenge, because Ghost is pretty good against air, with Battlecruisers you need a lot of turrets, because Corruptors are super good against BCs, and Zerg can get way more Corruptors out than you can get Battlecruisers, so you have to be very careful. But there is a strategy in TVZ that can work with mass BCs, and that is the double starport Battlecruiser rush. Notice how I already have 4 gases. I even pulled SCVs from my main mineral line so I could saturate these gases, because I'm going to go for a double starport really fast BC. This is almost in between a cheese and the tech build, to be honest, because you could consider this a cheese. It's a very cheesy rush. Now here, if you're wondering why on earth I'm switching my add-ons because I'm not allowed to make Hellions, this is all for show. In this challenge, a lot of it is going to be mind games. If you came into this video thinking you can't win straight up just showing your opponent you're going to make mass Battlecruisers, true. That's why I'm not going to show them, right? I always try to fake, pretending to make a Marine in the earlier challenges. Now I'm pretending to play normal by putting my factory on the reactor, despite not making anything from that. But if they scout this, it looks normal. Sometimes, the feeling is very important. So here, my opponent could scout with a Zergling, see that the factory is not building anything because it has an animation, and just realize I'm doing something absurd and defend it, right? But very often there's like a little bit of intuition. So if he scouts with a Zergling, it will feel normal to him to see the factory on the reactor, and the alarm bells might not go off. That's basically the plan. Now notice how much gas I have. You really need this much gas. Yamato plus 2 Battlecruiser is 750 gas, guys. So, you know, that's a lot of gas. I think that qualifies. Now, I don't have any SCVs on minerals, really. I think I'm even going to cut SCVs to get these Battlecruisers out. Now, you can't really do an all-in with this, because you... like, Battlecruisers, I think, is the slowest building unit in the game. If someone wants to correct me on that, go ahead. But with carriers, for example, you have chrono boost for them. Battlecruisers don't, so nothing builds as slow as a BC. Even with double starport Battlecruiser, you can't even spend your money. So even if you wanted to all-in, you would maybe do something like spam Hellions like crazy and make an armory, go for a Hellbat attack. Obviously, I'm not allowed to do that, so we are going to play a macro game behind this. Notice how I started a Hellion on the factory. That's also a fake. It's even better of a fake because I got supply blocked here, so the Hellion can't even build. Actually, I feel like at some point I'm gonna finish that on accident and then kill it myself or something like that. So I think I faked myself out as well as him. But 2 Battlecruisers are on the way. And now the 3rd command center is gonna go down. Like I said, you know, I'm trying, guys, but I can't spend my money that well because these Battlecruiser builds are freaking slow. Look at them. I remember one time I tried to do a build where I did a proxy Thor and a proxy Battlecruiser, and it took a freaking eternity to get those guys out, man. It's just like your opponent's gonna have Blink and 75 Stalkers, and then your Battlecruiser's gonna fly in like, hey guys, I'm ready. So yeah, it takes a while. Now this rush is gonna hit pretty fast. Yamato's not quite gonna be done. And this rush has one very specific plan. The best thing that can happen... I mean, well, okay. The best thing that can happen is if they don't have a Spore Crawler. That doesn't happen, by the way. Well, I guess that's the best thing. But assuming everything is in order, they have Queens, they have Spores, blah, 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 blah. The best thing that can happen, and your game plan should be, to find the Spire. Corruptors, if they get them out, your build is kind of ruined. If you're playing Mass BC and they get Corruptors too fast, you're doomed. Like, you don't have enough eco. You're gonna have to spend all your money making these turrets and stuff. Killing these queens is great. Like, this is what you should be doing. You usually have too many BCs for the queens. You can't kill him because, as you can see, they make a lot of Spore Crawlers. But that's where I'm doing the scanning here too. I need to know where the Spire is. That's why I'm flying around. I could be killing the natural here too, killing those gases. I do like to kill queens when I can, because queens are hella annoying and I want them out of my face. But the most important thing is to find the Spire. That's why I'm clicking above here. Here, I see no Spire, and that made me incredibly happy. And now we find out the reason why he doesn't have a Spire. We're getting attacked by 4 Ravagers. A Ravager, if you guys don't know, is 100 gas in total. Which means if your opponent makes Ravagers, they don't really have the gas to spend on anything else. Which means the Spire is going to be late. At this point, he undoubtedly has started a Spire. I would guess it's in the main base, could be in the natural, but he definitely has one. But it might already be too late. There we see the Spire in the mineral line, I believe. Yeah, there we go. But he moved the Spore. That's a crucial mistake by him. He moved the Spore out of the way, so now I can target it relatively free. We were going to kill it anyway. Here, I'm going to lose 1 BC, even if I lost 2. As long as I kill the Spire, we are totally happy. Because he can't make enough queens to keep up with this. I'm just spamming my Yamatos. As long as I kill the Spire, there's nothing he can do. And he types G, G, GG, and a double Battlecruiser rush does the job. And now it's time for some Vikings. This is the second to last tech challenge. We have Vikings and Banshees left. I can tell you that both games are really, really crazy. The Banshees was actually one of my favorite, but now it's time for Vikings first. And this game was mainly interesting because I'm playing against someone who stream sniped me, and I'm sure of this because he was in my chat and he tried it before. It is a random player at 5100 MMR, which I believe is the lowest MMR player of the entire video, about rank 190 Grandmaster. He did get Zerg and he told me he was Zerg. So if you guys are wondering if I'm crazy enough to play CC first against Terran and Protoss, the answer is yes, but that's not what I'm doing here. My opponent's actually Zerg. Now, he played against me before with his Terran. No, I think he got Protoss from random, actually. And you could tell that he was very clearly trying to blind counter the challenges. So this game, I was already sure we were going to get something crazy. Now, the thing is, I was streaming all of these challenges at the same time. So sometimes I play Marines only, and sometimes Reaper, sometimes Vikings. So unless he was stream cheating, which I really don't think he was, by the way, he couldn't know what unit I was going for. So I do wonder how he's going to blind counter something that he doesn't quite know what it is. In particular, because we were doing the tech challenge here, which means we are allowed to make a couple of Marines and a Reaper, etc., right? So he can't read it from my first unit, so that's nice. Now I see there's an Overlord in my main. I'm going to try to do some damage to that. And Vikings is a unit that's pretty close to my heart. If you guys have watched my channel for a longer time, you might be aware of the Penguin Brothers to Grandmaster challenge, which is a challenge where I tried to get Grandmaster playing Vikings and Hellbats only, and it actually ended up being a pretty strong challenge. Now, I can tell you guys one thing. If you get upgrades on Vikings, if you get 1-1 Vikings, they are pretty freaking strong. Now here, I'm starting a bunker, because this Overlord just looked really suspicious to me. I feel like there's no way you put an Overlord in front there, unless you're trying to bait. Now here, nothing came to attack me, so I started to wonder if it was a mistake, but it's still a little suspicious. It's always tough to read. I'm gonna give you guys some tips here while I'm at it. It's always tough to read random players because random players tend to be a little worse at the race than you expect them to be, because they have the advantage of people not knowing their race, and they have the disadvantage of having to know all these races to play right here. Can I kill the Overlord? Oh, I actually barely didn't kill it. That's unfortunate. So my opponent will typically play a little worse than normal. Anyway, the point I was getting to, Zergs don't typically send 2 Overlords to your base, so it's weird. But my opponent's random, so maybe it's not suspicious. But anyway, the Ravagers are here, so we're definitely being all in. Right now, I got 2 Starports coming up. Keep in mind, I'm only allowed to have 5 Marines here. I have 3 as of this moment. He lost 1 Ravager there, which is pretty rough. And normally, let's say a human player gets Ravager all in. What do? They make a Banshee. Or let's say they make some more Marines or something. What do? I make Vikings, of course, because that is the challenge. Now, sadly for me, I'm not going to have the time to build reactors on them. I would have... Oh, actually, I do have time for it, apparently, because I'm doing it. I was going to say, man, I'm even crazier than I thought. That is pretty insane. I was like, okay, well, we're getting all in. I better make, you know, these reactors right away. I guess I was really confident in my 4 Marines in this bunker. And now he sees I have 2 Starports making reactors in my main base instead of a bat. He must be absolutely shell-shocked at this moment. So now for him, as he definitely knew that I was doing this challenge, there's a couple options, right? This could be either Vikings or Liberators. He's gonna know what it is as soon as my first unit finishes. And I bet he's praying that it's Liberators, because Liberators are absolutely awful against Ravagers. Now, I do have him nicely in the corner over here, so maybe I can kill these Ravagers. He's doing a good job of targeting those Marines. But as soon as I get these Ravagers out of the way, it's gonna be alright. This fight is a little bit questionable. The thing was, his attack hit so fast, I was sure he didn't have a lot of workers, so I just decided to sacrifice these workers to kill all the Ravagers. And now, out of all the units I could have made, I have 2 landed Vikings. And this is the best thing about Vikings. He thought he had enough to beat me, but I could just fly out, kill the Overlord, and move on. I mean, I have 4 more Vikings in production, guys. Like, I know this is the dumbest way to hold the cheese of all time. Please, guys, if you're gonna try hold cheeses with Vikings, well... just don't blame me for losing MMR, okay? Because it might not be the most efficient thing ever. But somehow, I am here stabilizing with a double reactor Starport Viking build against someone with Roach Ravager. Now, I did lose all of my workers for it on my natural. Our economic situation is probably pretty comparable. But I don't know, man. I've got so many units. My attacking force, even though it looks like a joke, you know, to have a bunch of landed Vikings walking around as your main army, my attacking force is stronger than his. I think I have 6 Vikings. I have 2 more on the way. 8 Vikings is the magic number, I believe, to kill Overlords. It could be 7 as well. But I remember from those Viking challenges I did before on my channel that if you have 7 or 8 Vikings, you can one-shot Overlords. So that is the plan. As soon as I have 8, I'm going to fly over to his main base. And I'm going to try to snipe all of his Overlords. Priority number 1 here for my defense is that I get the wall up again. If I have a wall off, I feel pretty safe. Vikings are not that great against Zerglings. If my opponent would go for some kind of a big link flood, let's say 30 speedlings, that would be very, very difficult to go up against with just Vikings. Now, there's a little bit of a lag spike here, which I wasn't sure if it was me or the opponent, but thank goodness it was me and I didn't just fly into a million queens, so that's great. Sometimes it happens, especially when I'm streaming. I'm not sure why. And here's the first 2 victims. There you go, guys. Overlords. That one survived on 1 HP. I hope it was because I micro too fast. I hope it's not accidentally 9 Vikings that you need. I mean, it doesn't matter. The Overlords are gonna die so fast. And you can see he doesn't have that many drones. Our economy is pretty comparable. In fact, I'm even a little bit ahead, though. He might have a 3rd hatchery. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. No 3rd hatchery. Yeah, he was even more committed than I thought they were safe. And now I killed his Overlord, guys. My opponent cannot make units at this point. He is standing there stranded. He doesn't... You know, he can't build anything. He's just desperately trying to build more Overlords. And now I went for the bait. I wanted him to go exactly. I wanted him to go on the ramp, and then I'm standing here in a concave. Let's micro those Vikings back. More Vikings coming in. This is my absolute favorite part about Vikings, by the way. Just the way that Vikings reinforce the battles is so beautiful. It looks like the freaking awesome videos that Blizzard always made to promote their games. And there you go. GG is called. The stream sniping cheeser couldn't beat my Vikings. As he said, he was expecting Reapers. And that is almost done for the tech category. And for the final game of the tech category, we have a very special one. Banshees only against our highest MMR opponent yet. 5585 MMR Protoss player, rank 73 Grandmaster. The funny thing is, my opponent's called Bumps. You guys might have seen him before in some tournaments. I met him at Home Story Cup, and he told me to stop making content out of him. Well, yeah, I guess I failed in that request. So here we go. Now this is gonna be super cool. I had people in my chat telling me that this was impossible. I had to give Banshees a lot of tries, and yeah, it just wasn't really possible. But yet I managed to produce a game that might make you believe otherwise. This game was very, very cool. Mass Banshees against Protoss. It sounds like it has obvious problems, right? I mean, if you only make Banshees, you can't really defend Stalkers, Phoenixes. Yeah, I guess if you play against Robo... Okay, okay, you know what? If you play against Robo, it might sound decent, right? Besides that, it's kind of hard to see, though. Like, it's been very, very difficult. I tried going for 2-starport Banshee proxies. I tried going for a macro game and then Banshees. The answer was usually the same. I die to Stalkers. And if I don't die to Stalkers, we're playing against the macro Protoss player who realizes I'm making Banshees makes 1 Phoenix or 2 and an Observer, and then we die. So it's been hard to figure it out. In the end, I ended up coming up with this strategy, which is definitely the best one I've used so far. So the proxies, it doesn't really work because it makes it like a little bit too obvious, feeling like a cheese. Like here, I'm making my barracks at home, my factory at home. I'm trying to make everything look as normal as possible. And then I just make the starports at home, which kind of, it serves 2 purposes, right? Like, first of all, you can't fight it out on the map. It would be easier to scout only if you go up against an early sentry. An Observer would hit too late. An actual Stargate unit... Well, an actual Stargate unit might see it as well, but the standard build is Blink Robo these days. So an Observer hits too late, but an hallucinated Phoenix from a sentry would see it in time. But besides that, they're not going to scout it in time, and you can also use the Banshees to defend. Like, it's not... You know, if you think about it with these, you know, kind of aggressive strategies, right? I mean, I don't even know how to call it, like mass Banshee. Like, is it a cheese or a meme, or is it just a garbage build or an amazing build? Like, I don't know how to describe it. But with this kind of stuff, you would think you gotta win with the first blow. But in reality, with Banshees, it's not really the case. Like, you can't kill army with Banshees that easily. You can only kill workers and put them on the back foot. But you can't really win the game. It sounds really stupid if I put it that way. But you can't win the game with them right away. It has to be a prolonged effort. And now you can see the build actually works out pretty well. I'm going to start 2 Banshees and Cloak almost at the exact same time. And then the plan is as followed. I keep making 2 groups of 2 Banshees. 2 Banshees one-shot probes even under a battery. And no one ever plays double starport. So even if you go up against 2 Banshees, you would think, okay, I know where these 2 Banshees are. I will leave Stalkers to defend them, and then just make a battery in the other base, because if he shows up with a 3rd Banshee, which also no one builds, the battery deals with it. But I will keep showing up with 2 more Banshees that also one-shot probes under a battery, so... You know, if you get a little bit lucky, or maybe your opponent doesn't quite realize what you're doing in time, you really could pack a punch with these early Banshees, and then... Yeah, I mean, if your opponent plays Phoenix, you need some inhuman outplays to make anything happen, but I wouldn't be uThermal if that was my if that wasn't my vibe, right? Like, that's what I like to do. Make really, really absurd unit compositions and try to bring them to the top. Now, I'm already starting a 3rd gas here. At some point, I really would like Banshee speed as well. Banshee speed is great. It's very disappointing if you play against Mutas or Phoenixes, because you realize those units are still faster and you can't even fly away. But if they don't have those, if they're trying to chase your Banshees with Blink Stalkers, for example, or Marines, or Hydras, they feel fantastic. Like, it's so freaking fast. So there's an adept shading here. He's going to see my natural. This is the first time when he's going to realize something is off. Before, I denied all of his scouts, but now he sees the timing of my natural is not quite right, and we're going to kill a lot of probes. The reason why I'm so aggressive is because I figured there would be no way he has an Observer at home. He only has 1 Observer at this point, and he would be using it to attack. So this is just knowledge. It's a little bit scary to do this yourself if you're not sure. Just move the Banshee back. I'm sure the Observer is about to approach here. Should be here by now, because that is the unit he recalled. There was nothing else that would be worth recalling besides the Observer. So, I mean, unless it was a 500 IQ fake, which I'm convinced it wasn't. I'm pretty sure it was actually the Observer. There was an Observer right there. And now the move is going to begin. The second group of Banshees. Does he expect this one? I'm making a 3rd CC already. Let's see. Yeah, so he did expect the second group. I mean, very, you know, well, a good clarity by him, I should say. That he didn't just assume I was following the standard rules, but he actually countered just the idea. He saw my command center was late. He's already making his own 3rd command center. Doesn't have to take any risk. 3 Stalkers in each base, and he should be fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be splitting up these... I'm going to be grouping up these Banshees that were split up. So before, I had 2 groups of 2. But keep in mind, especially with the late game, with the potential of a reactionary Stargate, for example, I do have to make things happen right away. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to group up with 6 Banshees and try to go to a base where there's most likely only 3 Stalkers and wreak havoc. Right now I have speed. These Banshees are fast, okay? They are so cool when they have speed. It's not an upgrade you usually get to see in professional games, but you do get to see them in uThermal games, luckily. Now I'm getting a 3rd star. But there, oh, there's a Stargate ready. Yeah, that is terrifying. Just knowing there's Phoenix on the way really means I have to do damage really fast. So here we go. I'm going to get as much damage on as possible. All those Stalkers die. Now I'm going to be able to kill a lot of probes as well. And this was the kind of attack that I was talking about. But yeah, now there is a Phoenix on the way. And Phoenix is just... They can't be countered by what I'm doing here, right? Like, they will kill an infinite amount of Banshees. 1 Observer and 1 Phoenix will kill everything I have. Because my only anti-air, quite literally, is... You know, those 4 Marines that I have, or 3 Marines or whatever it is. These Banshees are running out of energy. But I did a really good job distracting him. I'm actually ahead in eco, which sounds crazy. And I'm going to have more Banshees into the natural. You can see he's very focused on the Phoenix. He was in position every time until now because he's so focused on the Phoenixes. You see already 7 probes going down. You can tell he's really tunnel visioning on that Phoenix because he was still chasing my Banshees on the mini-map. But in the meantime... He did lose a lot more probes for it, and now I'm going to get turrets, going to get a planetary fortress as well, and that should be pretty good. Now you can tell, I mean, Protoss can make probes really fast with Chrono Boost, but still, these mineral lines are not completely saturated anymore. They're running a little dry. Dude, these 2 Banshees, oh my goodness, these killed like 14 probes already. Oh my god, this mineral line is just gone. There is no mineral line anymore. Also, this is a move. I haven't mentioned it yet, but flying the factory and the barracks ended up being a genius move because my opponent always needed the Stalkers to take care of these Banshees. But, you know, they're giving me so much vision. I know where the Stalkers are at all times. He cannot chase the factory and the barracks because then my Banshees will know where the weakness is. And I really, I'll be honest, guys, I really didn't intend this to be the smartest move I've ever made, but somehow it ended up working perfectly. So many more probes going down. And at this point, we're kind of in the same stage as we were in that Thor game at some point, where my economy is better. I don't need good trades anymore. I just need to make sure that I get trades, okay? If I sit back and I make 20 Banshees, my opponent makes 6 Phoenixes, and, you know, it's very cool that I have that many Banshees, but I'm still not going to be able to kill them. But if I keep killing probes, at some point he will have to attack me, because there's just nothing left. I mean, it would be a very funny scenario if my opponent just sits back, realizing I'm only making Banshees, and then I end up having literally 40 Banshees and just having to fly through Phoenixes to kill like his next eye or something like that. I would love to see that. That would be freaking amazing. For now, though, he is actually sitting back. I mean, I would expect that for losing that many probes to go on a counter-offensive. But I suppose he realizes that I'm not really going to be doing much more than making Banshees at this point. Now, he blinked back to defend these Banshees, but there's enough Banshees to kill the Stalker. This is another example of those trades that I really like. Well, this trade was actually efficient. Before, the trades were not necessarily efficient, but killing 3 Stalkers for one Banshee is obviously pretty good. He did keep the 1 Phoenix at home. That's a really good move by him, though, because the 1 Phoenix, yeah, I mean, I can't kill it. I have a turret here for the Phoenix in the offensive side, though, so that's great. I'm going to make sure to kill all these Stalkers and the Pro. His economy is an absolute shambles. Oh, my God. I have more than 100 supply. His army might be better than mine on paper because he has Phoenixes, but I probably have more SCVs than he has units in total. I know that sounds absurd to say. I think at this point he probably has 30 units. And I have like 60 SCVs or so. Like, it's pretty ridiculous. And then these 2 Banshees get through, and my opponent must be getting so frustrated. He has all the counters needed to kill these Banshees, but he just keeps on losing probes. And it feels like there's nothing he can do about it. I'm going to get a planetary up. I never expected to be running out of minerals instead of gas in this challenge, but for some reason it's happening. I like how these 3 Marines had like some kind of an impact just because they were scaring the Stalkers away. Now, I'm making an armory for upgrades, which... yeah, do I need it? I don't know. I mean, if I get an armor upgrade, my Banshees die slightly slower to the Phoenix. Sure, but is that really, you know, is that going to help me win the game? Or like I don't know. I do like that he got charged, by the way. It's like, I guess he's going to kill my SCVs a little faster, but besides that, I don't really know what the charge is going to accomplish exactly. So this is pretty much his final push. There are no workers left. I have an extra group of Banshees to make sure of that. Even if he kills all of these Banshees with his Phoenixes, this is going to be his final push. And it's pretty scary. I mean, he's 4 Zealots and 6 Stalkers. Those Stalkers cannot die if he accompanies them with the Phoenixes. But here, you can tell he's already getting lost in the chaos a little bit. I'm pretty sure he lost 1 Stalker. Yeah, he did lose 1 Stalker. The army is not going to finish. I'm trying my best to repair this turret, by the way. That turret is the only thing keeping those freaking Phoenixes away from me at this point. And it's working very well. I mean, at this point, I might as well go kill his Nexi, I guess, because he doesn't really have workers for me to kill. Now, you can see how absolutely absurdly fast Banshees die to Phoenixes. Like, every time a Banshee gets close to the Phoenixes, it just disappears. Now, the only thing I have to do here is kill his Stalkers. So even if it's a bad trade, I'm trying to get his Stalkers. I got one there, but look how fast they die to the freaking Phoenixes. It's absurd. I mean, he doesn't have anything at home. As soon as he's out of ground units, I cannot lose anymore officially. So I just want to kill the Stalkers. That's all I want to do. Even if I lose 10 Banshees to kill 2 Stalkers, I'm okay with it because that is in a winning condition. And there we go. This is a uThermal video. I guess he realized that it was me after making 300 Banshees. Who would have guessed, guys? Who else could it be? Probably Mara, right? This seems like a very legit Terran strategy. Best strategy in the game, surely. But no, at this point, it's clear that I won. I'm going to kill his last Nexus. And this one, I was super, super proud of. I think this was the challenge that took me the most tries to complete because, I mean, you can see how difficult it is. I have been owning him this entire game and still I couldn't get through 2 Phoenixes with like 20 badges. And here you can show he's upset. Remember what I said at the start, that he didn't want to be content again at Holstery Cup? He remembers. I'm pretty sure he's about to type it to me as well. There you go. Bums has not rebuilt his base. It looks pretty sad. Look at the minimap, by the way. His entire base is just absolutely wrecked by Banshees. It's like, well, how do you call it? Like cheese with holes? I don't know how to say that in English. I think you guys know what I mean. That's what it looks like. Nothing left. Couple of gases, couple gateways, and that's going to be it. Banshees has been completed. The tech category has been completed. Let's move on to the cheeses. And the first cheese is going to be Marauders Only. We're playing against Aquarion's Protoss. Aquarion is a professional Terran player, but we're playing against this Protoss, which is also our highest MMR opponent yet. MMR is 5,647, which is rank 61 Grandmaster. Now, Marauder cheeses, I'm not gonna lie, guys, it's kind of funny that I played against a Terran who's playing Protoss, because Marauder cheeses are pretty decent against Terran. I'm very careful saying it's a good build, because it's a very risky build. I feel like more often than not, I kind of see it fail. But against Terran, it's decent. Against Protoss, it's pretty bad. But here I am playing against a Terran's off-race Protoss. 2 racks Marauder it is. Now, why this strategy can work is that if you play 2 racks Marauder, you'll always have more Marauders than they expect. Marauders build pretty fast. They can definitely snowball. And it's a cheese no one does. So, technically, they make a battery. They should be completely safe. But since no one does a cheese that is this exaggerated, where you go for 2 barracks Marauder, there is a potential where you can like walk past the battery or walk past the bunker, stuff like that, and then they'll have to pull the SCVs. Workers are very good against Marauders, but if there's that many Marauders, half of them get slowed, and it ends up being a little bit annoying. In fact, 5 Marauders can also one-shot SCVs, 4 Marauders can one-shot probes, and now we're getting scouted. At this point in the game, I thought, man, I wish I was playing a Terran instead. Terran scout way later than Protoss players, typically, against Terran at least. So Zivi got scouted here already. I have 5 SCVs on minerals, guys. It looks absolutely horrible. And I figured he would just realize what I was doing too fast and just kind of end up destroying me. But I guess, I mean, it's a weird enough cheese that there's always a little bit of potential. Like, one thing I learned from doing all my challenges is to never give up. I've won some absolutely ridiculous situations where, you know, if it was like in a tournament, I probably would have left. But because I was doing it for the challenge, and I was not necessarily doing it to win, but I wanted to do the challenge as well as possible, I stayed in the game. And very often I would either win or create a really fantastic loss out of it. Now, I know a lot of you guys struggle with that concept. I also really struggle with that concept, and I'm trying to set my apart from you guys because I'm the exact same. But losing sucks. But I've definitely learned that some losses can absolutely be fantastic and very, very entertaining, especially when that's the goal of playing, you know? Not trying to be particularly wise here or something, but I guess it is a little bit of a lesson, you know? I used to be so try-hard as a pro that I could never enjoy a loss, but now it's way different. But anyway, 3 Marauders are ready. Here we're going in. There's no Nexus. That's what I expected. If he made the Nexus, he would be absolutely insane. Now, we do have a lot... Oh, the first Stalker's gonna get caught. The battery's not finished yet. Okay, so the first Stalker's gonna die. I was gonna say, we're gonna kill the Zealot right away, but instead we kill the Stalker. But this is where it's get tough. You cannot kill a unit under the battery. There's actually... Oh, he has 2 gates, looks like. I'm just gonna go for the Stalker. The only reason I'm doing this is very important, guys, because I looked at the Nexus energy, and the Nexus didn't have enough energy for a battery overcharge. You cannot kill anything under a battery overcharge. Now here, notice how I was target firing the probes that were closing the surround, so I'd still get away. But the battery's still up, and he's getting closer to having enough energy for the overcharge. But the Stalker is dead. And the Adepts, even though Marauders don't deal that much damage to Adepts also don't deal it back. The reason is because neither Marauders are light and Adepts aren't armored, so the bonuses don't apply. Now, it looked really silly that I have so many Marauders that I'm not attacking, but a battery overcharge will keep all of those alive. Like, you can't kill anything. Now the battery overcharge is over, I'm going to start targeting the Stalker. Marauders have very long range, and they do have the slow. That Marauder spawns into my Marauders, which is just beautiful. I have no idea how that survived on 1 HP. Pretty sure mathematically it's supposed to die. It probably has one more armor than I realized. And here we go. My opponent has no money left. He doesn't have energy for a battery overcharge. And the Marauder cheese does the job in PvP. The second cheese is going to be Hellions only. Now, for a while, I was doubting about this. But I decided to put Hellions and Hellbats together. I mean, they transform into one another. I wasn't sure if I should look at them as a different unit. And realistically, after playing this game, I realized that if I were to do Hellbats only, I would do the exact same build. So I just decided to mix them. If you disagree with me, make sure to post me a comment for the algorithm. I mean, a comment to complain. Yeah, never mind. Anyway, we're going to go for Hellions / Hellbats only this game. And our Zerg. I kind of feel like a broken record saying this every time, but this is once again the highest MMR opponent we've played against. This Zerg is 5,894 MMR, ranked 36 in Europe, guys. Like, this is absolutely an incredible opponent, and the fact that I'm trying to beat him with Hellions only, it almost feels funny. I mean, it's clearly not something you're supposed to be able to do. But all right, I have a plan here. So, the idea in mind that I can use both Hellions and Hellbats, it works pretty well. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to proxy the barracks, followed by a factory. I'll start a reactor on the barracks, and then I switch them over. So I have like a really fast reactor, the Hellions, really close to my opponent's base. And even if the Overlord is going to scout that I'm not at home, which it will scout in time, once again, this is just a really big strength of all these builds. It's not necessarily that the build is good, but they just never expect it. Who the hell runs Hellions into someone's base at like 2 minute 40 when there's supposed to be one Reaper in their base, right? So they'll just never expect it. That's going to create for a very interesting dynamic when he's going to have to defend his main and his natural, at least assuming I get into the main base. And then maybe I can start attacking the front with Hellbats, or maybe I can just keep running in more Hellions. Like, it's a pretty funny strategy. Like, this is something generally I would try just doing a random cheese challenge because it's very cool. I'm not going to say it's a good build, so once again, be careful if you lose MMR, it's not my fault, but it's a very interesting strategy nonetheless. Now, I'm getting a second gasser. The only reason I'm getting this second gas is because I still have to make a second factory and the armory, of course. Like, a second factory with a reactor, you could probably barely afford it off of just one gas. You know, I'm just thinking about the dumbest build ever. You could technically go double factory proxy and then expand, because the second factory is not finished in time to spend all of your money. But then I'm not sure what the expand is for if you're still relying on just killing someone with a million Hellions at, you know, the 2 minute 40 mark or whatever. Now, here you go. Second factory is going down, as well as the second reactor. And now you can already see why this strategy has some potential, right? Like, these Hellions are going to go into his base so fast. It used to be a very common strategy, I want to say like early Heart of the Swarm about 8 years ago, to just make Hellions super fast and right-click them into your opponent's base, because people just weren't as good with walls. Maps maybe weren't as refined, maybe not as compact, maybe a little bit harder to wall. And I'm going to make the armory over there. And my opponent, as you can see, you can very clearly tell here that he was really scared and didn't know what was going on. By the lack of barracks or anything in my natural, he thought this was going to be a proxy 4-rax. There's no way he would have made mass slowlings otherwise. I mean, now I'm playing as mass slowlings while having only Hellions, which to me, it sounds like a fantastic trade. Like, I'll trade it any day of the week. So here we go. He's trying to micro these links to his heart's content, but Hellions are just so good against Zerglings, and we're going to be able to get into the main base. He does kill 2 Hellions for his trouble, though, so that's definitely well done by him. Now I'm going to kill a couple more drones here. Keep in mind, the armory's on the way. I have a second factory. Currently, I am producing, you know, 4 Hellions at a time, which sounds absolutely absurd to say for 3 minute 40 into the game. I got a couple more Hellions on the way too. This must be very frustrating for my opponent to just have this one freaking car in his main base. Then the next 4 Hellions are going to be running into the natural, and, you know, I don't think he's going to have a little defense there. He just moved the Spine Crawler. Now the Hellions are here. He's going to lose a lot more drones. Keep in mind, guys, we're playing as rank 36 GM. He's trying to, you know, think about practicing for his upcoming tournament, and then there's a freaking Barcode running Hellions to his base, and the Hellion only cheese not just works, but destroys. Now it's time for perhaps my favorite cheese of them all, Widow Mines only. Now this is, I mentioned it before, together with Liberators, probably the most confusing challenge. You guys are probably going to be like, how? No, stop. You know, this is not okay. You can't be out here beating Grandmaster with just Widowmines. Like, at least make a Marine or something. I won't. Absolutely not. Now, guys, you won't believe me when I say it, but once again, we're playing as the highest MMR player yet. Our opponent here is a 6,047 MMR Grandmaster Protoss Barco. That's quite the mouthful. Meaning he is rank 24 Grandmaster. We're going to play Widowmines only against the rank 24 Grandmaster in Europe. That's insane. Now notice how I have 2 SCVs out on the map already to proxy. This is a crazier cheese than usual. And I guess you'll see why very soon. Now think about it this way, guys. This map is the perfect map for a lot of my cheeses. The main reason being, the main is absolutely massive, okay? You can land everything. You probably let 4 command centers in someone's main and they won't see it. So what am I going to land in his main? A factory. And what am I going to make from it? Widowmines with an armory, making them invisible, of course. But, as you would think, you cannot really destroy someone. Or no, I should put it another way. You can definitely destroy someone. But you cannot beat someone completely, win the game, by just killing some workers in the main. So I'm going to have to go a little bit more insane. So I'm going to proxy a factory on 2 sides so I can rally Widowmines into both of his bases with an armory. And this strategy is absolutely crazy. I actually tried this strategy before, trying to make Hellions from the proxy, but it wouldn't quite work. But somehow this version, it feels pretty good. Like Widowmines in the main, I have to admit one more time, there's only 2 maps in the map pool which you can land the factory in someone's main without them seeing it. I think it's this one and Gressvan. If you guys want to go out on the ladder, be my guest. It's a pretty fantastic build. And normally I apologize for losing your MMR. Or I say it's not my problem, or I say it's not because of me, or something like that, right? I'm not responsible. But here, please lose MMR with this build, because this build is so freaking cool, okay? Okay, maybe if you lose 10 times in a row with this, you probably stop. But otherwise, just keep doing it, because it's amazing. So look at this, guys. We're going to have factory on both sides. My opponent only thinks I'm playing in normal double gas. At some point, he's going to see I don't have a natural and get suspicious. But a double gas build is pretty normal. Now, this is when I started getting really scared. I noticed that our opponent, guys, is on 1 base, okay? I am trying to beat someone with a 1 base Widowmine cheese, but my opponent stayed on 1 base. He went 2 gates on 1 base even, judging by the timing of that adept, or those adepts. So how on earth are we going to get through here? You see there's a lot of batteries. That's good news for us. Look at this, guys. The opponent made 4 batteries, meaning that he was expecting an attack from the front. Okay, this is going to be beautiful. Look. I already caught him off guard with the factory, right? But now, he knows the factory's in his main. He never expected another Widowmine to come from the front, because I do indeed have 2 factories. And there's no detection, guys. This hits so fast, there's no detection. These Widowmines are invisible. There's another one coming into the mineral line. The Forge is just starting. Forge, by the way, I have to say, really good choice. Let's see. Oh, huge hit on the Widowmine. You couldn't see all the units killed, because I did have the experience turned off. But that was a massive Widowmine hit. But even now. Okay, we have a lot of Widowmines there. Soon he's gonna have detection, but how do we kill him, right? Well, the thing is, guys, Widowmines built very freaking fast. Oh my, oh, that was so risky by him trying to, if that Widowmine shot, he would have lost all his probes. But yeah, I mean, I can't really kill him, but there's a lot of Widowmines here and they build very fast. Now, my main base is also kind of dying to an Oracle. I might want to send one back here. Looks like, oh, I thought we were going to kill the Stalker there, but we barely couldn't. And now I kind of need to run away from this cannon over here. More probes. Dude, there's just so many Widowmines coming in from everywhere. It's pretty crazy. Now, the bad news for us is he does have a Stargate. So Oracles are very good detection. I mean, I know he has the cannon in his mineral line. That's annoying enough. But he also has the Oracles for detection now, so it's going to be really hard to make anything happen. Though, to be honest, I have killed a lot of his economy already, you know? Like, at this point, I have more economy than him. He should be killing more of my economy since he has Oracles and I have quite literally nothing in my base. This is another one of those pure cheeses where I literally do not have another unit than Widowmines. I didn't make a single Marine. I have 5 Widowmines and that's my entire army. But I can maybe go for a 500 IQ bait. Let's see. If he pays attention to the Oracle, he should be flying it back to my SCVs. There you go. He's going to chase my SCVs. And the Widowmine is barely going to kill the Oracle, I believe. There you go. The Oracle does fall. And that is amazing. Now he only has 1 Oracle left. And keep in mind, his economy is very, very small. So I do think we're in a position where we potentially could win. Though I need to be really good at splitting these Widow Mines. Like, Widow Mines, I don't want them to get all tagged by the same Oracle. There we kill a Stalker and probes, which is super nice for us. I think we're going to get another shot of here to kill at least one probe, maybe. Now, maybe we'll just fall back. I mean, keep in mind, he doesn't have Revelation on all of these, so I can just bait him over the other Widow Mines. I have one more Widow Mine at home, which I could probably start moving towards his base now. But if we're looking at the way it's going now, we don't have enough damage to push through. So despite all my efforts, we are still not gonna win the game here. But I think we're in a decent spot. Like, our opponent really, I mean, I know he has better tools than me, technically, but he really doesn't have a lot of economy. I have a fully saturated mineral line. Like, it's really not that bad. Sadly, I'm gonna have to fly this factory away. My factory in his main base had a really good run, but it's not gonna be able to do more than this. I do have a couple more Widow Mines to deny is natural. At some point, I was considering maybe looking for a hidden expansion, but the truth is, he procs the Stargate and he lost so much stuff, I don't think there can be a hidden base. The Widow Mine is almost going to shoot in his main. I was looking at the minimap, but it couldn't quite shoot. And now, I'm going to do a follow-up that's only logical. I'm going to make 2 reactors out on the map, because why not? I just want more Widow Mines, guys. That's it. Now, I'm going to try burrowing these Widow Mines in really annoying spots. Look at the one in the middle. That one's obviously meant to catch an Oracle. If that catches an Oracle, that'll be incredible. Probably not, but if anything... Okay, we did spot a Phoenix there, so he has 1 Phoenix. You wouldn't think it's scary, but we have to keep it in mind, because what the Phoenix can do... Unlike the Oracle, the Phoenix can survive 1 Widow Mine hit. So he can bait the Widow Mine in my main base, and then the Oracle can go in. That's why I'm paying attention here. I want to unburrow. Oh, there we go. We kill a Stalker. That is huge. I know it doesn't sound huge, but he doesn't have a lot of units, right? So that's a pretty big portion of his army, even killing 1 Stalker. He came back to use Revelation. Look, I'm going to try to snipe the Oracle here. Check this out. I know the Oracle's waiting up here. I could tell that it was decelerating. There we go. Almost loses the Oracle. That would have been really fantastic. But now... I have an expansion. Another Stalker goes down. There's massive. And I don't know, guys. I'm pretty sure his army is 1 Adept and 1 Sentry and 1 Stalker. And then he has 1 Oracle without energy. I'm pretty sure that's his entire army. Now he's following this for some reason. I guess he just aimed with a couple pros. Look, guys, that is not... I mean, I know... Wait, why do I have... I'm gonna have 5... I didn't even remember making that other factory, by the way. Now I have 5 Widow Mine production. And I'm gonna try to snipe the Adept. I saw it move. I think I barely not catch it or barely will. Will I get it? Oh, I barely can't catch that one, but that's okay. If you look at the minimap, you can see my Widow Mine streaming in from everywhere, and soon I'll be able to corner him. That's a really good micro bait, by the way. He just baited that. I'm gonna start... Oh, that's why I made it. I'm getting Drilling Claws. Here we go. Is he paying attention? Barely in time. Oh, that was so close. I mean, he has so little units. I'm really just trying to box him in here. Check this out. He's getting pretty boxed in. He's gonna have to run through the Widow Mines to escape. The first Widow Mine shoots. The second one shoots as well. That is a Sentry going down. And the Oracle flies over the Widow Mine after all. That is absolutely brutal. And at this point, I don't think he has that much left. I mean, I don't have... fighting units. I mean, neither does he, because he just lost that Adept. Well, he has 1 Stalker left, to be fair. But I have 13 Widow Mines on the map, and my opponent has presumably no economy and 1 Stalker. Now, he is expanding, so he at least has a medium amount of probes, I would say. Let's see if I can try to box his probes in with a sandwich over here. Let's see if we can put 1 on each angle. There we go. That one's going pretty deep. That Widow Mine is not going... Oh, it is going to shoot, I believe. There we go. Really good shot on those Widow Mines. Oh my god, I think I killed over 10 probes, and now he has even less. I mean, he did have more probes than I thought, to be fair. I really thought he was going to have like 10 probes. He did have about 20 plus, I believe, maybe like 22 or so. But now his economy is effectively cut in half. And I mean, I know I'm not producing the most, you know, efficient army units ever. But I have 5 Widow Mines producing at the same time with Drilling Claws, with over 30 SUVs, and my opponent is chilling here on what I think is 10 probes and like 3 Stalkers. He has a Prism, but I don't know what he's going to do with that. I'm going to try boxing him in 1 more time. I brought even more Widow Mines this time. Let's see. He's trying to run away. I think we're going to get some really fat hits there. Oh my god, that is 2 absolutely brutal hits. The third one is also going to shoot because I have Drilling Claws, and that's going to be it. We beat the rank 24 Grandmaster with just Widow Mines. The final unit of the challenge is going to be Siege Tanks Only. And I'm going to indeed be doing a cheese with Siege Tanks Only, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. And it is. And I would not recommend that you guys copy this build, but I tried my best to make it happen. I think I had to try a good couple times to even get something that remotely resembled the game. So let me explain the game plan here. I'm going to make my base look as if I'm just doing a normal double gas. This is in a lot of these challenges the same. It was the same with the Widow Mines last game. If you just wall off at a decent timing, very often the probe is not in time. This is a slightly faster wall than you would normally do. Normally, you make this wall off with the SSV that finishes the barracks. So if the Protoss scouts a little bit later, then it's going to look normal. If they scout in time, it might be a little bit suspicious. But why I'm doing this is I can't let them know I'm doing something really crazy. Because my build, I'm going to proxy 2 factories and make siege tanks from them. And it just sounds so ridiculous that... I mean, if they even get a little bit of an idea that I'm doing this, I'm going to be absolutely screwed. Unless this build is somehow 12 times stronger than I expect it to be. Now, my opponent this game is Kerr. And no, for the first time in ages, that is not the highest MMR opponent we've played yet. This opponent is 5298 MMR, which is good for about rank 122 Grandmaster. Still a very good competitor, of course. We're actually playing against Kerr, who used to be a pro back in the day. I think now he's not that active anymore, so his MMR is also a little lower. I think he was definitely at least 6k before. So he might still have the skills, but maybe not the knowledge of the current meta, you know, because everyone plays double proxy factory tank these days, right? I mean, it's... If he played a little bit more, he would definitely know how to counter this build, but otherwise, I don't think he does. Now, he hasn't scouted me yet. Now, I think the best idea that I have is to wait for 4 siege tanks. So notice how these factories are finishing, yeah, roughly at the same time. I think one factory is 15 seconds later or so than the other, but roughly at the same time. Tanks take a little bit longer than 30 seconds to build, I believe. So the magic number for tanks is 3. I always say this in my videos. If you want to do a push against Protoss, you have to wait for 3 siege tanks, because if you have 2 tanks or 1, you cannot kill units under a battery overcharge. So literally, you could be going up against 2 Stalkers and you would die, because your units are just not going to kill the other units. So you need at least 3 tanks. And since the 4th tank, according to my calculation, is going to finish shortly after the 3rd tank, I might as well wait for 4. Maybe I'll even do my first SCV pull of the video. That would be pretty freaking awesome as well. Now, I'm very scared here. Like, we haven't been scouted, which could mean that we're also getting cheesed. It could mean that we're playing against a player that has a build that he thinks is safe anyway. Like, just imagine, guys. I'm chilling here, middle of the map, doing my thing, making a couple siege tanks, and 1 air unit shows up. Like, can you imagine if an Oracle flew in right now? Like, I would be devastated. Right, here we go, guys. I'm going to pull, I think that is 7 SCVs. I don't want to destroy my economy completely, but I want to make sure I have, like, a little bit of a buffer, you know? Like, I don't want these tanks to be the front line. Like, doesn't matter if I use them unsieged or sieged. I don't want these tanks to be the front line. Now, I have to say, there's a decent potential that we're lucky here, because my opponent hasn't scouted. He could just be playing the greediest build of all time, or he's just AFK, also possible, but I think he's probably just being very greedy. There we see he's a Stalker. Maybe we can kill the Stalker right away. Now, I could have kited forward unsieged, but I had no idea what was behind there. There you can see there's a couple more Stalker. My opponent is probably very, very, very surprised at the fact that there's 4 tanks in his natural at 4 minutes. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This is such an absurd amount of siege tanks. My opponent is clearly going for Blink Stalkers. He has 4 Blink Stalkers and a Robo producing. Immortals are kind of scary, but tanks also do a lot of damage to Immortals. Like Zealots and Archons, for example, are way more scary. Look how fast the Immortal is gonna die. He's trying to target fire my last tanks, but the repair might save it. The Immortal was so much of the damage, and now the Stalker is gonna die. And I see a very juicy Artosis pylon over there, guys. I'm gonna be able to kill that pylon. He has a couple more Zealots, but there's no charge. Charge would be very scary. Doesn't look like he is charged yet. I'm gonna go through and kill the pylon. Doesn't matter if he damages my tanks, and that's gonna be it. I have 5 tanks in his natural. And that is it, guys. With the exception of SCVs, Mules, Ravens, and Medevacs, we have beaten Grandmaster with every single unit alone. And I think that's an awesome achievement. I'm really, really tired, because though I did record this gameplay over a lot of streams, I recorded all this commentary just in a row, and I'm absolutely exhausted. Hope you guys really appreciated this challenge. This is my highest effort video ever. Let me know which one was your favorite. Let me know if you want another one with the other races. For now, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and adios.